Previously on One Tree Hill.
Hi guys, it's
Lauren Daisy.
Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about One Tree Hill and I'm so insanely excited. I don't know how it took me so long to watch this show because I am absolutely hooked. So how I've decided to do this is I've only seen one season of One Tree Hill, the first season. And what I'm going to do is every time that I watch a new season, I'm going to make a video deep dive on that season. That's how dedicated I am to you guys because I have not watched a single episode of season 2 until I film this video and this video is up. Which has been so hard because I want to watch it so bad. First came out in 2003, which is so insane. I was 3 years old when this show came out, but 20 years later, I'm so glad that I finally started watching it and I found it because I absolutely adore it. One Tree Hill, if you don't know, is an absolute cult classic teen show. It is up there with Gossip Girl and like Beverly Hills 90210, like the classic, the original. It just took the world by storm. And I feel like it needs to have a resurgence. I feel like Gossip Girl 100% had a resurgence this year with so many people watching it. Pretty Little Liars, insane the amount of people that rewatched or watched Pretty Little Liars for the first time this year, and I feel like that's what we need with One Tree Hill, guys. This is what we need with One Tree Hill. I need people to talk about One Tree Hill with, okay? And it ended up running for 9 seasons. You just don't see that anymore. Like, that is the most seasons out of any show that I've talked about. I mean, aside from Friends with 10 seasons, but like Desperate Housewives 8 seasons, Pretty Little Liars 7 seasons, Gossip Girl 6 seasons, 90210 5 seasons, Riverdale 7 seasons, like 9 seasons. And I'm not just talking 9 seasons, we're talking like how Suits, right? Suits has 9 seasons, but it's 10 episodes a season. No. One Tree Hill is a true teen drama. This bitch has 24 episodes a season. Tell me you don't miss that shit, okay? Because truly, one of the reasons that I was so sad about Riverdale ending was because it was the end of an era of TV. Like, it truly, truly was. It was just the end of the 24 episode seasons of the shows that would just go for season and season. And that is what I love about TV. I do like movies, but I'm not a movie girl. That's not my bag. TV is my bag. I adore it. I love having characters that I feel like I can get really invested in, that I watch for seasons, that I watch from when they're like teenagers or even like Desperate Housewives, like from when they, when we first see them through marriages, divorces, kids, like different relationships, their friendships grow, their characters develop. Like, that is what I love about TV and why I love talking about it, because it gives you so much to go off of. And that was what made me so sad about Riverdale ending, is I feel like that was the last show that is ever going to be like that, unless the studios have some kind of change of heart, which I wish that they would. But yeah, that was a real end of an era. And so I'm really glad that I have One Tree Hill that I have not seen yet. I have a couple of other shows that I also really want to watch. I want to watch Melrose Place. I want to watch the original 90210. I want to watch Sex and the City. I want to watch Gilmore Girls. I want to watch The OC. So there are still a few, Vampire Diaries, like there are still a few 24 episode shows that I have left in my arsenal that I'm like keeping close to my chest, because when I run out of them, well, to be fair, I'll probably just rewatch them like I do now with Pretty Little Liars and Gossip Girl, so that's not really relevant, but that's more to do with my anxiety than anything else. But yeah, so One Tree Hill, 24 episodes a season, runs for 9 seasons. Bitch, 9 seasons. It runs for like 10 years or however, like something crazy like that. So good. So insane. And it ended up with 187 episodes total. That, like I said, more than any show we've talked about. Gossip Girl is 121. Pretty Little Liars is 130 something, I think. Maybe, I can't remember, but yeah, I think 90210 made it to 100 as well, but insane. Okay, I'm so excited. We have so much to talk about. So today we're just going to be focusing, like I said, on season 1, because that is all I've seen. So if you can bear it, please don't leave spoilers in the comments, or if you do, just like put spoiler alert or something, because I really adore this show and also have managed to avoid spoilers for it pretty much. So I don't really know anything that happens in this show. So I'm so excited to watch season 2. But yeah, so like I said, 187 episodes in total, and the first episode aired, like I said, over 20 years ago now, on September 23rd, 2003. I think it's shameful that I pride myself on being a TV teen drama channel, and yet I hadn't seen one of the most classic teen dramas of all time, but it's fine because I'm here now. So the first season averaged 3.84 million viewers, which is insane. Like per episode. Is that not just crazy? Those are crazy numbers. Like, this is not a nostalgia video, but like, I just feel like I miss TV. Like, I love TV and I miss it. Like, I miss true like TV culture. I have a video coming that I'm really excited about, and I don't want to give too much away for it, but it's kind of around this concept. Like, yeah, like I said, 24 episode seasons running for like more than 5 seasons. You would sit down every week to watch it, like mid-season finales, series finales. Like, I don't know, for me, streaming, it just isn't the same. And I haven't found a show that I love the way that I love these shows. I don't know what it is about them. Just this format of TV, I feel like I have not found in the new shows, in the streaming platforms. I don't know. They just don't make shows like this anymore. Maybe I'll just write one. I'm going on such a tangent right now. I don't know. I think I'm on some kind of sugar high or something. So yeah, like I said, One Tree Hill, 2003. It ran from September 2003 to May 2004 on the WB network, so the Warner Brothers network, which is crazy. I feel like most people wouldn't, maybe, I don't know, not most people, some people, I hadn't even heard of it when I started watching this show, but it is what eventually went on to become the CW. The show follows a group of teenagers that live in North Carolina, which I thought was kind of fun. I hadn't seen a show set there before. I love that kind of like small town vibe, so I was really excited about that. Focuses on a group of high school students that attend One Tree High, I think it's called. Like, I thought it was going to be like, no, Tree High? It's like One Tree Hill, but I think Lucas, the main character, he lives at One Tree Hill. Like, that's his house number. But the actual place is called Tree Hill. So I think it's like Tree Hill High. Anyway, they all go to this high school together. And the focus, like I said, is Lucas. He is the main character, Lucas Scott, and Nathan Scott, who are brothers, half brothers. And they have a feud because basically Nathan's dad disowned Lucas and stayed with Nathan and Nathan's mum. When Lucas ends up joining the basketball team, which Nathan is on and is the captain, they are kind of forced to confront each other. They could kind of, you know, stay out of each other's way, but that kind of forces them to, you know, see if they can coexist together. So we're going to start with the pilot. We're going to go through, I didn't even say what we're going to talk about. We're going to go through every single episode of season 1, and I'm going to tell you like how much I like the characters, the story, just, we're going to talk about, like I said, this is a true deep dive. We're going through everything today. So we're going to start with the pilot, and the series premiere was watched by 2.5 million people on September 23rd, 2003. And honestly, this is another thing that I miss, okay, about how TV shows used to be. Theme songs. Oh my God. Like, it has a proper intro. Like, the theme song slaps. It's so good. There's like an intro, you get clips of the characters and like the actors' names, and I don't know. I get nostalgic for like weird niche things, but TV show intros, bring them back. It's like when I watch Grey's Anatomy now, like it just cuts to Grey's Anatomy. Like, that is it. And then when you watch season 1 again, and it's like you had like the proper intro and the mix between like the high heels and the scrubs and like the music, and it had like proper intros. I miss that. I miss that. Hi guys, so I actually hadn't written up the part of the script about the pilot, so I just had to skip over and keep going, but I have done that now. So you're getting future me coming back in to fill in the blanks. So right out the gate, they establish Nathan Scott as the star player of the Ravens basketball team, with his girlfriend Peyton being the cheerleader. So it's kind of that classic jock cheerleader dynamic, you know, that we see, or at least that's what we think in the beginning when we first see this scene. And then we have the polar opposite of this, which is Lucas Scott, and he is just playing basketball like with his friends at the local park, a lot more low-key, not at some huge game with some huge audience. And I really just loved how this shot was set up, how they had them both score basically the exact same shot, but with the contrast of Nathan being cheered on by all these people and everyone being excited for him, and then Lucas just playing, you know, for fun with his friends.
Scott for the game! Scott for the game!
Peyton is then driving home, and that's when we get to see a bit more of her. We see that she is into like more rock alternative music. She has like a really cool car, and that's when we start to see that maybe she's not the more cliche cheerleader that we get in movies and shows. And she actually almost runs Lucas over, which is like kind of their meet cute, I guess, if you wanted to call it that. That's when they kind of, I think they already know about each other, but this is when they kind of lock eyes for the first time. They immediately show you that Nathan is kind of the less likable of the two, that he is reckless. We see this by him, you know, stealing the school bus. He has no care for Peyton because he almost crashes the bus because he is kissing somebody else. And also, you know, being disrespectful. We see him talking back to Whitey, who is the coach of the basketball team. And he just, yeah, has that kind of like, I'm better than you attitude. And by being the star player, he also gets special treatment. So when the police come and, you know, when they're kind of disciplining the boys on the basketball team for what they did, Nathan Scott is actually left out of this, as if he was never there, even though obviously we know he was the main instigator of it. And Lucas, on the other hand, he is like a really avid reader. He reads like Steinbeck, Shakespeare, and he actually narrates the show just at the beginning and the end, kind of like how Meredith Grey does for Grey's Anatomy. And we're also introduced to his best friend, who is Haley James, and she is introduced as like a kind of like a chatterbox. She's kind of quirky and like clumsy, and that's like kind of her whole thing. She's kind of like cutesy, best friend, that kind of vibe.
Did I tell you that I fell down today? Yeah, slipped off the curb, totally bit it, face down, butt in the air. Too graphic, sorry, I'll just quiet.
The first time that we see Keith Scott, who is Dan's brother, Lucas's uncle and Nathan's uncle, he is drinking. We see him going to see Whitey and suggesting to him that he consider Lucas for the basketball team because Lucas is really good, but no one's given him a chance. They also make it very clear that Keith is not fond of Dan at all. There is kind of a divide between one half of the Scott family. So you have Dan and Nathan, and then you have on the other side Lucas and Keith. So Keith decided to kind of help Karen with Lucas rather than staying with like Dan and Nathan. So Keith then takes Whitey to watch Lucas play at the, you know, the park where he plays locally, and kind of show him that he has talent. Then we go to Nathan and we see a bit more of his dynamic with Peyton, and he is just horrible to her. Like, he disregards her feelings, her hobbies, even like her taste in music, and he's also like hugely manipulative, like gaslight 101, because she is upset with him that he just invites her to hang out with the guys, and she's like, I wanted to just spend time with you, and he gets angry at her. But then he flips it and he's like, oh, but I wanted you to come with me because then it'll make hanging out with the guys more bearable, and like all this stuff, making it seem like he really does want to spend time with her and that she's making it better, when in reality he just wants to spend time with the guys and is just like bringing her along.
You want to be a bitch? That's cool. Just sit in your closet, listen to your loser rock, and I'll see you tomorrow.
How about you don't see me tomorrow?
It's fine by me. Like I don't have other options.
I wish it was just you and me. But I was hoping you'd come anyway. Make it a lot more bearable. Okay?
So Whitey goes to Lucas and asks him to be on the football team. And asks him to be on the basketball team. Lucas looks so fine, okay? He looks so fine in this episode. And he initially says no, and rejects his offer. But then his friends that play with him at the park, they're like, don't use us as an excuse to not do this. Like, you have talent. You should go and play on the team. And Whitey leaves a Scott jersey on the doorstep for Lucas, and he tries it on. But Karen, I think she gets like, honestly, like flashbacks to when she was with Dan in high school, and she's like, take it off. Like, I don't, no. But then her and Lucas talk, and she comes around to the idea and realizes that her past with Dan and what she remembers of that high school shouldn't have anything to do with Lucas's experiences, and encourages him to join the team. And Dan, oh my days, I don't know if he gets better. Don't tell me because I don't want spoilers. But like, he's awful. Like, he is villain like number one, public enemy number one. Like, he is up there with the likes of Bart Bass. Who else have we got? I think, yeah, him and Bart Bass, probably the worst villains. Oh no, and maybe oh my god, what's his name? I can't even remember. Archer Dunhill from Pretty Little Liars. Like, this man, oh my god, he grinds my gears. He's awful. Like, he is so awful. He pressures Nathan. He tries to sabotage Lucas. He makes absolutely everything about himself. And it's so embarrassing to watch. Like, oh my god. And it's so, I saw a, I didn't watch too much of it because, like I said, didn't want spoilers. But I did see the guy that played him. I think it's called like Paul Johansson or something. And he was talking about playing Dan and the fact that, you know, people hated his character so much and it really had an effect on him, which I think is so crazy. Maybe I'll do a video about that one day of just like, because I think Jessica, who played Vanessa on Gossip Girl, got a similar thing where people just take it out on the actors, which is so insane to me. But anyway, I have no issue with Paul. I don't think he's cancelled. But I haven't really looked into anybody. But Dan, that man is cancelled. So yeah. Anyway, Dan Scott rant over. Lucas goes to help Peyton when her car breaks down. And he realizes, you know, they have kind of like the same taste in music. And she rings Nathan and asks him to pick her up, but he's kind of a tit about it and is annoyed that he has to do it and doesn't end up coming. So Lucas offers her a lift home, and he starts confiding in her about that it's hard being Dan Scott's son, but not really. Like, everyone knows that he's Dan's son, but everyone also knows that he wants nothing to do with him. And he explains, they kind of have this like instant connection, even though she's kind of rebelling against it. And he explains that he and Nathan actually used to play basketball together, like junior league or something that it's called, when they were kids. And the reason that he stopped playing, he told his mum that it was because he didn't want to see Dan's face anymore. But he said to Peyton, the reality was, I didn't want like Karen to have to see his face anymore, which is so, Lucas and his mum, they have a really sweet bond. And I just thought that was just the sweetest thing ever. And Dan basically says to Nathan, you have to get rid of this Lucas guy. So Nathan offers him a game. He says, look, we'll do, I don't know, score baskets, whatever. I'll probably learn more about basketball as the show goes on, but at the moment my knowledge is limited. So anyway, if Nathan wins, then Lucas cannot join the team. But if Lucas wins, he can join the team and Nathan will quit the team. So that's the bet. Those are the stakes. And Karen goes to confront Dan and basically tells him to leave Lucas alone and not meddle in his life. Like, he didn't want anything to do with Lucas, so that means that he doesn't get to have anything to do with him now. So they have the match with everyone there, and Lucas ends up winning, even though Nathan tries to play dirty and tries to, like, you know, mess him around and everything. He still ends up winning, and he says that he's doing it for his mum, which was, again, really sweet. And then Lucas goes over and reveals to Peyton that the stipulation he made with Nathan, because he ended up changing it, was that if he won, he could join the team, but Nathan also had to stay on the team. So now they're both going to be on the team. And that was the end of the first episode. And I think as the pilot goes, I was kind of iffy about it. Like, when I watched it for the first time, I wasn't hooked immediately. Like, I didn't really find any of the characters, aside from Lucas, that likable. And I think because we're just introduced to so many characters at once, it's kind of hard to get invested in any of them, like, straight away. But I was like, you know, I'm gonna stick with it and, you know, keep going. And I'm really glad that I did, because I've grown to absolutely love it. So episode 2 is called The Places You Have Come to Fear the Most. So this is the first actual title that we get, and kind of like Gossip Girl, how all the titles are based off of movie titles, all of the titles in One Tree Hill are songs, which I thought was really cool. So they're all song titles. Most of them are like direct like copies of the title, but then sometimes they are changed a little bit. And this got 3.31 million viewers. Episode 2 did, which is wild. So this is an increase of around 800,000 viewers from the pilot to the second episode, which is really, really good. I mean, like, it's very impressive. So, like, for example, Pretty Little Lies went from 2.47 million viewers to 2.48, so just up by 100,000. I know that was like 7 years later, but, you know, walk with me here. And then Gossip Girl actually went from 3.5 million for like viewers, which is insane, for the pilot, to 2.48 million viewers for the Wild Brunch, so down by a whole million. Whereas One Tree Hill just like continues to go up pretty much. Like, it fluctuates at some points, but like I said, an average of, what did I say, like 3.47 million viewers an episode. That's insane. So in this episode, Lucas blows his first varsity game and decides that he is going to quit the team. And at this point, I was already like, oh God, this will he, won't he, with joining the team. Like, I'm done. Just join the team or don't. And the wedge between Nathan and Peyton continues to grow as Nathan keeps making these jabs at Lucas. And I think it's making Peyton realize the kind of guy that he really is. And Brooke, Peyton's best friend, decides that she wants to hook up with Lucas, but he doesn't really reciprocate her advances because he is starting to fall for Peyton, even though she's with Nathan.
Do you want to come in? What are you doing?
You just said.
I didn't invite you to come in. I just asked if you wanted to.
And alongside this, Keith forces Karen to deal with her feelings for Dan. Well, not her feelings for Dan, but like how much she hates him, because she refuses to step into the high school gym because of all the memories there. But Keith's kind of like, look, your son plays for the team now. Like, are you not going to come and watch him play? So she kind of has to fight with that and get over her own struggles with that time in her life in order to go there to support Lucas. And honestly, Dan Scott may be one of the most hateable characters I've ever seen on TV. Like, I know we've got a long way to go. We've got, you know, we've got a load of seasons to go. So I can't be judging anyone too harshly just yet. But the way he acts towards Nathan is awful. The way he acts towards Lucas is awful. Like, he's just the worst. He is just the worst. And honestly, at this point, I wasn't that wowed by the pilot. Like, you know, I wasn't that wowed by the pilot. I thought it was fine. And the second episode, like, again, I wasn't getting that into it. I was like, you know, I'm going to give this a go because, like I said, cult classic. And I feel like I could warm to these characters. But at this point, I didn't really like anybody. Like, I didn't find anyone that likable. You know, besides Lucas, I liked him, but like Nathan, Dan, I didn't really care about them. Karen, I was like, she's fine. Peyton, I also wasn't that fussed about. So I was kind of like struggling to get invested at this point. But in this episode, we were introduced to Brooke, who I was kind of waiting for. I was like so upset that she wasn't in the pilot because I absolutely love Sophia Bush. So I was like, where is Brooke? She is the most iconic character from this show. Like, that much I know. So she was introduced in this, and instantly I really, really liked her character. We were also introduced to Jake in this episode, and I also really liked him. I also thought that Lucas submitting Peyton's like art to the magazine because she was too nervous to was a really sweet thing. And I also really loved that Coach Whitey is putting in the effort with Lucas. You know, even with Dad being an asshole about him and everyone kind of not being the most welcoming to him, I really loved that Whitey put all that stuff aside and really focused on making sure that Lucas felt confident and that he felt like he was a part of that team.
I'd stand up, but every time I do, somebody kicks me in the ass for putting you on the team. Sit down.
Episode 3 is called Are You True? And this had 3.78 million viewers. So at this point, Nathan is getting annoyed by Lucas's kind of growing popularity now that he is firmly on the basketball team. And he decides that he needs to find Lucas's weakness. And he finds that in Lucas's best friend, Haley James. So Nathan ends up convincing the rest of the team to brutally haze Lucas. Like, it is just absolutely uncalled for, but they go along with it. And he decides what is like the final thing that he can do to get to Lucas. And it's dating his best friend, Haley. So he goes to Haley because she's a tutor and says that he needs tutoring and wants her to help him. And he insists it's just because he is really struggling, and if he doesn't get the grades, he won't be able to play on the basketball team. So she agrees to help him with the stipulation or condition or whatever that they keep it a secret and that Lucas cannot find out about it. And while this is happening, Brooke is actually starting to develop real feelings for Lucas, which is kind of creating a bit of a love triangle, which I know becomes a theme in this show, between Brooke, Peyton, and Lucas. And now that Karen is going to the games and things and getting more involved with the school, she's having to interact with the other mums at the school, and a lot of them are people that she went to high school with, that kind of know everything that happened with her and Dad, and they're really, really judgy about her being a single mum. They're judgy about Lucas and him not, you know, knowing his dad and everything like that. So that is another kind of obstacle she has to overcome now that Lucas is on the basketball team. And Peyton gets really angry with Lucas when she realizes what he did submitting her work to the magazine. But despite this, she does go and meet with the editor of the magazine, and he really loves her stuff and actually decides to publish it in the newspaper under her own column, which is really cool. She does it like anonymously, but then she kind of has a bit of a change of heart of like, oh, he was actually just, like, Lucas was actually just trying to help me out here. And yeah, the hazing, like I said, is absolutely brutal. It is so childish. It just reeks of insecurity from specifically Nathan, but also just the rest of the team for going along with it. And at this point, I love Lucas. I'm Team Lucas. But I'm not like holding on to that so dearly just yet, because while I've only seen 2 seasons, I think, or 2.5 seasons of The Vampire Diaries, I was a big Stefan girly. Like, when I first started watching it, and I was watching it with my best friend Miranda, we were both like, why is everyone a Damon girly? Not that we didn't like Damon, because Damon's fine. Like, we loved Damon too. But we were like, why is everyone so Team Damon and not really Team Stefan? Like, Stefan's great. We love Stefan. And then obviously, as the show goes on, you kind of see why. And I think that could be on the horizon for me with Lucas Scott, because I loved him. And even by the end of season 1, I was starting to falter a little bit. But initially, I loved his character. Like I said, he was the only one I liked from the pilot, and that continued to be the case for quite a while. He was my favourite. But I think we could have a Stefan situation here, because one of my favourite YouTubers is a girl named Ali. I think her name's Ali Sheehan or something. And if you don't watch her videos, go and watch her videos. If you like my channel, I'm sure you will love her channel. She is just, I adore her. And I know that she is a really big Nathan Scott fan. And I feel like I trust her judgment. So I feel like there's got to be a reason why she's a Nathan Scott fan. And that's why I feel like I could have a bit of a Stefan situation with Lucas and end up turning on him and preferring Nathan. But at this point in the show, I was like, there's no way. There is no way that I could be a Nathan Scott girly over Lucas. Like, he's clearly the better brother. But now I'm like, I'm going to trust the process. And I'm going to hold out on deciding which way the coin falls. At this point, Hayley was also starting to grow on me because I wasn't that fussed about her for the first 2 episodes either, but I feel like we started to get to know her a bit better in this episode. But it did frustrate me. We were kind of getting, I could see the miscommunication trope on the horizon, because I feel like it would have been very easy for her to tell Lucas that she's tutoring Nathan so that the hazing will stop. Like, that's part of the condition. She's like, he can't find out about this and you have to stop hazing him, and Nathan agrees. And I feel like she could have just said that, because because you know what these teen shows are like, he's going to find out about this. And when he does, it's going to seem like a betrayal, you know, or that she's doing it because she is interested in Nathan. Whereas, like, if she had just said to Lucas from the jump, this is what I'm doing and this is why, he probably still wouldn't have been happy about it, but at least you're not hiding it from him, you know? Sometimes I'm like, just speak to each other, guys. Just speak to each other.
Nice bracelet. Where were you this morning?
Just tutoring.
Oh, yeah? Anyone I know?
And I say this because I really, really like Lucas and Hayley's friendship. I think it's really, really sweet. It's kind of got like Dan and Vanessa vibes, like long-term platonic soulmates, besties, like that. And I love that. So I really hope it stays that way across the seasons, because they've kind of hinted that maybe Hayley actually likes Lucas, like is interested in him. And I hope that's not the case and they just stay best friends, because nobody in these teen shows ever just stays platonic best friends. There is never just a friendship between a guy and a girl. I think the only one I can really think of is like Chuck and Serena. And even then, they aren't that close. Whereas I feel like ones where people are so close and then they turn it into a relationship does bug me. So I really hope that Hayley and Lucas just stay platonic soulmates. I would really love that. And again, I was starting to warm to Peyton in this episode. I liked her and her drawings. I thought that was a really cool character trait for her. Like, she's so talented, and I just feel like, I don't know, I really find her character interesting, and she's not really a character I've seen in other TV shows before. And I did, in the first few episodes, feel like she was kind of a I'm not like other girls girl, which I wasn't into, but I feel like she's losing that. Like, she seems less like that in this episode, which I do like, because that's icky. We don't like that. And that's kind of where I felt like maybe she was going, but now I feel like she's got more to her than that, which I like. I also really liked Jake, like I mentioned, and I was hoping that his friendship with Lucas would blossom a bit more, because I liked that pairing. He was kind of the one person on the team that didn't shun Lucas just purely based on what Nathan's opinion was, which I liked. And I already knew that I was going to love Brooke, but I truly fell in love with her in this episode. She's just everything. She is everything. And I actually really started shipping her with Lucas, rather than Peyton and Lucas, which I found interesting. Episode 4 is called Crash Into You, and this had 3.78 million viewers. So Nathan hosts a party at his dad's beach house for the team, and he invites Lucas pretty much just to haze him. And he uses the opportunity to bully him and try and force him to quit the team. He plays a video, like a home video, of when Dan and Karen, Lucas's mum, had won prom king and queen, and they were kind of talking about their futures, and she was kind of talking about how much she loved him, and that was just really hard for Lucas to watch. And like, why did Dan still have this video? Like, I get that it's like memories for him of when he won prom king, but it was just him and Karen. Like, why would he still keep it? I feel like, I don't know. I feel like maybe we could get Dan and Karen at some point. I mean, we've got 9 seasons, like, I feel like that's on the table. So Nathan ends up getting really drunk and he crashes Peyton's car, which, this is a side note, but I love Peyton's car. It's so cool. But yeah, he ends up crashing Peyton's car and he tries to cover it up by threatening Lucas because Lucas drives past and he sees it. And he says to Lucas, like, if you tell anyone about this, I'm just going to blame it on you. And he basically, like, flees the scene. This is his girlfriend's car, okay? It just shows how little respect he had for her. But Lucas, obviously caring about Peyton, is like, I can't leave this here. And Keith works, like, with cars. He owns a mechanic shop, so Lucas brings it to, Keith's place, and Keith's like, well, I'll fix it, but you're going to pay for it. And Lucas is like, that's fine. Keith is like, you know, Lucas might want Nathan to get away with this, but I don't. And he ends up telling Dan because Keith and Dan are brothers. I don't know if I mentioned that. And he tells Dan what happened with Nathan and they end up paying for the repairs. So now Lucas is seeing like the extent of the money that the other Scotts have. And he gets kind of upset and he goes to, you know, Karen, and he's like, why did you let Dan ignore us for all these years and not pay child support or anything? Like, they have so much money. Why aren't we seeing any of that when he's my dad? And we meet Nathan's mom, Deb, for the first time in this episode. She comes back home from work, wherever she was working. I can't remember. I think she like charity stuff or like an organization or something. And she comes back to obviously hear that Nathan was involved in this hit and run. She kind of turns to Karen for advice. And Karen's kind of like, okay, are we like friends now? Like, what the hell's going on here? And Deb realizes that she needs to be more present in Nathan's life because, like, low-key, Dan is doing a shit job while she's been away. Lucas also learns about Haley tutoring Nathan because he found her hat in the car that Nathan was driving, which, what did I say? She should have just said, but she says that she did it to help him and, you know, he's not happy about it, but we move. And, you know, Peyton, when she finds out about her car and just that paired with, because she was there when Nathan showed the video of Lucas's mum, just all of that combined, she decides that she's had enough with Nathan and she ends up breaking up with him.
I'll call you when you're not so PMS.
Don't bother. I mean it, we're done. So get the hell out.
And at this point, this is why, like I said, I love TV, because you get characters where you're like, how is this person never going to be likable? And then they swap them around, because at this point, I truly thought that Nathan Scott was irredeemable. Like, I was like, he's so spiteful and cruel. Like, in this episode, I just could not see a world where he would be a likable character. Like, to the point, like I said, like, the alley is, like, loves him. So I was like, this is crazy. Like, how are they going to turn this around and get me on Nathan Scott's side here? Because in this episode, I was like, this guy is the worst. Like, him and Dan, they need to go. But I did feel like if Peyton and Nathan stuck to this breakup, they would both become more likable, because I think together, I just really didn't like them. I didn't like how he treated her, and I also didn't like how the way that he treated her was affecting her character and how she interacted with the other characters. So I did think, okay, if Nathan and Peyton are done for good now, I think they're going to both become a bit more likable as the series goes on. And yeah, like I said, I'm intrigued why Dan still has that tape. Like, I'm like, does he still kind of hold a bit of a candle for Karen, or what's the deal? What is the deal? And yeah, like I said, the Haley and Lucas situation, I just found irritating because it was inevitable that he was going to find out, and then he would have to just fill in the blanks for himself, like being like, why is her hat here? Like, is she dating him? Is she this? Is she that? Like, when she could have just told him the truth. Like, she could have just been honest with him. And then her trust with him wouldn't have been broken. And also, it just would have been so much easier. It just would have been so much easier. But then, you know, it's a teen drama for a reason. People have to hide things from each other. You know, that's the name of the game. I also really liked that Deb was like putting Dan in his place and was able to recognize that Nathan had become someone that she didn't really know anymore and that she didn't like his behavior. She wasn't just gonna roll over, accept his behavior the way that Dan does, because he's like, well, as long as he plays good basketball, it's fine. I like that she wasn't gonna let him get away with acting like that. And also with Dan holding him accountable for also, you know, not parenting Nathan in the way that he should. The thing I did find frustrating though was that Deb now has to take time away from her work and what she really enjoys to basically come back and clean up Dan's mess. Like, it's on her to fix this and to try to better Nathan, which is her job anyway as his mum. But I think it's just shitty that it doesn't seem to be a co-parenting situation anymore. It's more just like she now has to come back and fix it because Dan just doesn't know Nathan. Like, he knows nothing about him. He just sees him as this star basketball player, and that is it. Like, he only cares about basketball and assumes that Nathan is just a good kid outside of that. And Deb is like, he literally did a hit and run. Like, our son is an asshole. How are you not seeing that, Dan? And I think the conversation with Lucas and Karen about the child support is a tricky one because I see both sides. I see where Lucas is coming from, that, you know, they could have asked Dan to pay the child support and maybe they would have had a better life in some aspects. But I really got where Karen was coming from in that if Dan had paid any money, he would have then had a stake in Lucas's life and a say in what happened to him and how Karen raised him. And she just didn't want any of that stress. She knew that, well, she thought that Dan was fully invested in Nathan and that he wasn't going to be a proper dad to Lucas, and therefore she didn't want his money, which I totally understood. Episode 5 is called All That You Can't Leave Behind, and this had 3.53 million viewers. So Haley ends up explaining to Lucas that she only tutored Nathan so that Nathan would leave him alone. That was the deal that they had. And Lucas asks Keith to play with him in the annual father-son basketball game, which I thought was really cute. It's a bit of a weird dynamic because Lucas's dad is Dan and Dan's brother is Keith, but Keith is kind of sided with Karen and Lucas over like Deb and Nathan and Dan. So like he is his uncle, but he is definitely the father figure. And so I thought that was really sweet that he asked him to play in the game. And Dan takes the opportunity of this game to like relive his glory days. And it's so embarrassing. Like, it's so embarrassing.
It's the best it ever was for me.
Better than knowing your son or me.
It was different.
He just makes it his goal to beat Nathan and be better than him. And it's just so bizarre. It's like, this is your son. This is your son. Why are you so hell-bent on making him feel shit about yourself and making yourself feel better? And, you know, despite Lucas kind of struggling with how Dan treated them and him not paying the child support and stuff, he realizes that he actually got the better father figure in Keith than if he would have had Dan in his life, like how Nathan does, after Dan just publicly humiliates Nathan in front of everyone. And it's just so awful.
What you've done for me, well, it's just ours. Proud to have you as my dad for the night.
And yeah, Dan is just so embarrassing. He is stuck in high school. It's just, yeah, it's so pathetic. It's so pathetic. And I think this is where I was kind of like, okay, you're warming me to Nathan. Like, I'm starting to see his backstory and see why he is the way that he is. Like, okay, I'll give him a chance to redeem himself. And Nathan tries to make up with Peyton, but she rejects him, which I was like, thank God. Like I said, I really did not want them to get back together. And she's really struggling because it's the anniversary of her mum's death, which was really sad, but also good way for us to learn more about Peyton and to see her more emotional side and connect with her character more, because this was the episode that really made me start to like her when we got more depth to her. And I thought it was sweet that she kind of found a bit of an unlikely friend in Coach Whitey, who she bumped into at the graveyard, and when she was going to visit her mum, he was there visiting his wife, and they had a really sweet conversation about grief and, you know, losing someone that you love. And I just thought that was a really lovely scene between the two of them. And Lucas is actually the only one in this episode to really try to be there for Peyton, which is so crazy because he's only not only just met her, but like only just started really interacting with her. Even though Nathan is her ex at this point, he doesn't ask her how she's doing. Like, he's completely forgotten it's the anniversary. I don't think that Brooke remembers either, even though she's supposed to be her best friend, and Lucas is kind of the only one that she talks to about it. And Haley is still tutoring Nathan, even though Lucas now knows, and it's the fact that they're kind of becoming friends is really starting to bother Lucas. And also in this episode, Nathan realizes that Lucas and Peyton like each other, so he's kind of like, well, I guess me and Peyton really are done now. And at this point, like, even though we're on episode 5, I was still a little bit on the fence. Okay, I was still a little bit on the fence. So if you, like me, haven't seen One Tree Hill before and you're going to go and watch it after this, give it time, because I wasn't hooked immediately either. 5 episodes in, I was still a little bit on the fence, but I'm really glad that I stuck with it, because by the end, I was like, I adore this show. Like, I don't know how it's going to go, like, as the seasons go on, but if it stays really good, I think it could become one of my favourite shows of all time. So if you're thinking about watching it, just stick with it. If you're, like, in the first few episodes, you're like, I don't really know about this, I promise you, it's worth sticking with. And yeah, like I said, I didn't really like anyone besides Lucas and Brooke, but we haven't seen much of Brooke yet either, so I was a bit like, I don't know. But yeah, this episode did really make me warm to Peyton. And I was starting to warm to Haley more as well. So I was like, okay, I'm starting to connect with the characters more, because that's what gets me invested in shows, is the characters and also their friendships. And I felt like I didn't really have any solid, like, friendships or relationships to kind of, like, get invested in. So I think that's why it took me a little bit longer than it does with some other shows to really, like, for it to grip me. And yeah, I thought that her grief with her mom was, like, a really moving storyline, and it portrayed her, like, and it was portrayed in a way that I hadn't seen grief portrayed in a teen drama before, which I thought was a really, yeah, like, a good side of it that, yeah, I just hadn't seen anyone portray it in that way before, because she really, you know, struggles with it. She confesses to Lucas that she runs red lights. We see her in a car and she purposefully runs red lights, and she says that she does this because the day that her mum died, she was coming to pick Peyton up and she ran a red light. She ran a red light one time and died, and Peyton runs them all the time and there's no repercussions for it. Nothing has ever happened to her. So she's kind of like dealing with this grief, but also this weird kind of like survivor's guilt at the same time. And yeah, I just found it really, like, really heartfelt.
My mom ran one red light. I run them all the time and nothing happens. It's not fair.
No, it's not.
Also, I curled my hair because I was kind of like inspired by Peyton's hair. I didn't really get the same look. It's starting to drop out now, but Peyton's hair is so gorgeous. Like, the girls in this show are so stunning. I was just like, oh my god. Like, the men in this show are fine, the girls in this show are fine. My bisexual heart was like, I don't even know what to do with this. Now moving on to episode 6, and this is called Every Night is Another Story, and this had 3.4 million viewers. And for me, this is where they had me. Okay, they had me hook, line, and sinker, because like I'd mentioned, up until this point, I was a little bit on the fence about it. You know, I'd watch an episode every couple days because I knew that I wanted to stick with it in order to make a video about it. But after this, oh my god, after this, they had me. They had me hook, line, and sinker. I was watching this show like they were going to take it off of ITV. I watched it like back to back to back after this episode. I don't know what it was, but this episode for me, it just clicked. And I was like, I understand now why everyone loves this show. So while they're on the bus back from an away game, Lucas and Nathan get kicked off of the bus by Whitey for bickering and arguing.
So I saw Nathan in the shower?
Yeah, no wonder you broke up with him.
And this then leaves them kind of stranded on the side of the road to find their own way home, which I thought was insane. Like, I understood the message, but can you imagine how fuming you would be if you found out that your kid's coach left them on the side of the road in the dark? Like, and we're not just talking like, oh, they've left them in like a city or somewhere where they could just easily go. No. This is the middle of nowhere. The actual middle of nowhere. And during this game, Brooke had actually gotten hurt, like while they were fighting, she'd gotten knocked over. And she ends up taking these really strong painkillers, which make her all kind of like loopy. So Peyton and Haley have to drive her home from the game.
This is my best friend in the whole wide world. Don't you think she's pretty?
What is this?
Lucas and Nathan then get kidnapped by the opposing team for kind of, you know, hazing purposes, and have to outsmart them in order to get away from them, which I really loved. Like, this was kind of the first time we were seeing Lucas and Nathan be forced to work together. I also thought the way that they like outsmarted the bullies was really funny and really clever, which showed a kind of different side to Nathan, because up until this point, they've kind of portrayed him as like the dumb jock kind of vibe. Like, he's, you know, he's mean and stuff. But this was kind of where we started to see a different dimension to his character, whereas Lucas is kind of the like smarter one, and he, you know, does all the reading and everything. So it was kind of fun to see them work together, like that kind of unlikely can they coexist duo. While Peyton and Haley are in the car and Brooke, bless her heart, just kind of passed out in the back, Peyton admits to Haley that she does like Lucas, and she also tells her to be careful when it comes to Nathan, because she's kind of starting to see that Haley is starting to have feelings for him. Also in this episode, Karen and Keith go to this dinner thing, and they end up being sat on the same table as Deb and Dan, which obviously is horrifically awkward. And Dan gets, you know, really under Keith's skin, and he gets really drunk, and actually ends up attacking Dan for insulting Karen. And later that night, Keith goes to Karen to tell her that he loves her, which was so sweet at the time when I first watched it. But the way that like Keith's character kind of unfolds after this, he's still sweet, like, don't get me wrong, I think he's still a nice guy at heart, but it was honestly, this show is really well written, because we're going to talk more about Keith's drinking later when things get a bit more escalated, but it was one of those where when I was watching it like for the first time, I didn't really take note of it. Like when he was drinking the first time we meet him in the pilot, and when he got drunk because Dan was getting under his skin, then I didn't realize how much he was drinking. And then when we get to the more like intense episodes, it was like, oh, Keith has it. But then when you go back to watch it, you're like, obviously Keith has like a drinking problem. Like, that's his kind of coping mechanism. But they show it so, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, it's so naturally put into the show. They don't make a huge deal out of it. They don't like really point it out. You just kind of have to be like looking for it. And I think that's so interesting, because I feel like that is kind of how it is in real life. When you have people in your life that have drinking problems, they are either good at hiding it, or it's worked in a way that you are kind of made to not even really notice that it is happening until it gets too bad. And I just thought, I mean, I assume that was intentional, maybe it wasn't, but I just thought that was so cleverly worked into the show that, yeah, you could go back and kind of see, oh, I didn't notice that before, or, oh, okay, that now makes so much more sense because I'm starting to notice a pattern here that when you're just watching it for the first time, you might not pick up on. And yeah, I really, really loved this episode. It was one of my favorites of the season. And, you know, I just loved it because we were getting the connection between the characters. And for me, that is what gets me invested in shows. I've said it a million times, that is why I love Pretty Little Liars, because of the friendship between the liars. That's why I love Gossip Girl, because of the connections between the characters and how much you get invested in them. And this was this first kind of episode where I truly felt that development from these characters. You know, we start to see Nathan and Lucas understanding each other more and learning more about each other. And also, you know, we as the audience get to learn more about them as well.
Grabs me by the arm. He kicks me in the ass as hard as he can. I mean, he literally took my arm so that I wouldn't, go flying. He kicked me so hard. Then he brought Stevie Piken in the pitch, sat me on the bench. Never mention it again.
That sucks.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love female friendships. Love, love, love them. So seeing Haley kind of become friends with Peyton and also work her way into this little trio of Haley, Peyton, and Brooke, I adored. I hope they stay as a trio because I just thought they were so cute and I loved their little friendship starting to kind of blossom here. And I felt like this episode had a really good mix of heartfelt moments and also really funny moments as well. So now moving on to Life in a Glass House, and this is the 7th episode, and this gained 3.62 million viewers. I was gonna say followers. So like I said, it is just going up. In the popularity of this show, the viewership is kind of I have never seen before. Like I said, you know, Pretty Little Liars had a kind of steady-ish, whereas Gossip Girl kind of dropped and had to come back up again, and whereas from the get-go, this was just consistently gaining viewers. So the Scotts are hosting this kind of annual basketball appreciation party that they host every year, right? Deb and Dan. And Dan is upset with Deb for inviting Keith, Lucas, and Karen because she is really trying to kind of build a bit of a bridge there and Dan is just not having it. And by doing this, Karen kind of makes a new friend in Deb and, you know, they both kind of realize that they're actually good people. And the only thing that kind of divided them or soured their opinion of each other was Dan. Brooke also continues pining after Lucas, you know, and since he rejects her, she gets really, really drunk. I think just because she really likes him and she doesn't really get people reject her that much. So it takes a real hit to her confidence and yeah, she gets really, really drunk after he rejects her. So while drunk, she makes them all play a game of truth or dare, all the kids at the party. And she ends up daring Peyton to kiss Lucas. And after kissing him, Peyton kind of runs off, I guess, scared by the fact that she does feel something for him. And Lucas runs after her and, you know, they kind of confess their feelings for each other and they finally kiss properly.
Kiss Lucas.
And Haley and Nathan, you know, are growing closer and I just love their chemistry. I think it is absolutely 10 out of 10. Probably, I mean, it's kind of early doors to say this because it's only season 1, but I think they could easily become one of my favorite teen drama couples ever because I just adore them and I just hope they stay together because I really, really loved the kind of build up of their story. But they are getting closer until Brooke reads out this note that, you know, Haley had written to Nathan, I think it was, and kind of spreads this rumor that leaves Haley, you know, obviously really upset, really embarrassed that he would kind of betray her like this. And she doesn't want to hear his apology and kind of thinks he's never going to change.
The smart girl is really stupid.
Hey. You are not stupid.
So back to Peyton and Lucas. They're about to have sex, and Lucas, he lays it on so strong, okay? Like, I got what they were trying to do with this, but even I was like, this is a bit much. Because he just, you know, confesses that he wants them to be together and for it to just be more than sex and they can finally have this relationship and all this stuff, which upsets Peyton. And she's like, why couldn't you have just not said anything? Because, like, it's freaking her out. And she ends up leaving. Honestly, I didn't blame her. I feel like in this scene, you're supposed to feel for Lucas because he's, like, confessing his feelings and she's the one that's not ready for this relationship and she's the one that's ruining everything. But he went a bit far, I think, anyway. Like, they've only known each other. Well, I guess they've known each other for a while, but they've only been kind of, like, flirting for what? This is, like, episode 7, so maybe a couple weeks. And also, she didn't break up with Nathan that long ago. And that was a very toxic relationship as well. So she still kind of needs time to heal from that before you get love bombed by your ex's brother. Also, throughout this episode, there is something going on with Jake, which I love him. That's my guy right there. And he's missing practice and all these things. And I was really worried that he was sick or something was going on with him. But it turned out that he has a baby girl. Oh, too freaking cute. Too freaking cute. He has a baby girl. And now, like I said, I was already invested, but this got me. Like, for me, this was the first moment of this series where jaw was on the floor. Like, it was jaw-dropping, like, cliffhanger TV. And it was everything. Like, and this is just episode 7. Like, this isn't even a mid-season finale or anything. And you're thrown in that Jake has a baby. And that's why he's not turning up to basketball practice. Incredible. Incredible TV.
Daddy loves you, alright?
So now I did get annoyed with Brooke in this one because of how she acted. But I feel like as the show goes on, you see more of her and more of her character development and why she is the way that she is. So I feel like I let this one slide after getting to know her better. And let me tell you something. The writers did a stellar job because from that pilot, I did not ever think that I would like Nathan Scott. I was like, this man is irredeemable, okay? Like, I did not think I would come around to liking him, let alone rooting for this man. Like, it was such a 180. It was insane. He truly won me over and I was rooting for him and Haley so badly. And I just was like, oh no, like, it wasn't him. Like, you have to hear him out. Like, I was literally like, you two have to work this out because I am now invested. Like, I'm part of this couple now. I really love Haley and Lucas's friendship too. It's really sweet. I think for me, it starts to falter a little bit as the series goes on, but in this first half of the season, I thought it was really, really well done. And I liked that they didn't go anywhere near the possibility of them being a couple. Because, yeah, like I said, it kind of felt like maybe she had a crush on him in the first few episodes. And I'm glad that's kind of fizzled out. I do find the will they, won't they with Lucas and Peyton to be kind of frustrating, but also, we're so early in. You know, a lot of couples don't even get together until the end of season 1 or like future seasons. So I'm happy to kind of see where it goes. And yeah, I don't know. Like, for me, like I mentioned, I think Lucas just came on a bit strong. So I don't even really blame her for not wanting to go that full in that fast. And they also explained the pregnancy timeline in this episode, which I was really, really glad about because it just was making me so confused. When I was first watching it, I was like, but they're in the same year, but he didn't want Lucas, but he did want Nathan. Like, how is it? Like, what is going on here? So here is the gist. Dan and Karen, they got pregnant at the end of high school. Like, they were together in high school. He was a basketball player and they were prom king and queen and everything. And that is when she got pregnant. Then he went away to college orientation, and that was when he met Deb, was at college orientation. And he mentioned that he had a high school girlfriend, but he wasn't with her anymore, and did not mention anything about her being pregnant. Then, a couple months into that, Deb and Dan got pregnant with Nathan. So that's how they're in the same year, because Deb and Karen, they got pregnant within a few months of each other, because Dan, I don't know, he's just working overtime apparently. So yeah, that's how they're in the same year, because I thought that was so confusing, but when they actually explain it, you're like, oh, okay. It does make sense, kind of. So episode 8 is called The Search for Something More, and this gained 3.64 million viewers. So Peyton and Brooke decide that they're gonna crash this college party because they're in... I actually don't know. I think, I mean, I assume with these shows they're always supposed to be like 16 in the first season, so I don't really know what that is in like American school years. For us, that would be like year 11. So yeah, not really sure what year they're supposed to be in, because it's like junior, sophomore, senior, maybe sophomores. I don't know. Americans, please tell me in the comments which like year they're supposed to be in. I assume they're supposed to be like 16, 17. I think everyone was in like their 20s roundabout when they were filming this, so it's kind of hard for me to tell how young they're actually supposed to be, but I'm gonna guess like 16 or so, but definitely obviously in high school. So Brooke and Peyton decide that it would be fun to go to a, well, Brooke really decides it'd be fun to go to a college party, and at first they are, you know, kind of having fun. Actually, Holbrook from Pretty Little Liars was there, and I was like, what are you doing here? And so she is having fun at first, and Peyton is kind of not really feeling it, and she ends up meeting this guy there who is kind of into the same music as her, and they start vibing, but things go really south when he actually ends up spiking Peyton's drink.
Get off! Oh my god, this perv attacked my friend!
And luckily she is able to phone Brooke, who comes and saves her. And Brooke then calls Lucas to ask him for help, and you know, he and Brooke kind of end up bonding and talking, getting to know each other better while they are waiting with Peyton while she kind of sleeps it off.
Look, the thing about Peyton, it's really hard for her to let her guard down, but when she does, she's got this amazing heart, you know?
Sounds like something the two of you have in common. Who knew?
Meanwhile, this is happening. Haley ends up giving Nathan a second chance, and they go on their first date together, but then he ruins it again by being an arse like he always is, and, you know, being too embarrassed to admit that he is on a date with Haley when his friends kind of like ask about it. I think he says she's just tutoring him or something, and it was just really, yeah, really weird. And then also in this episode, Karen gets accepted into this 6-week cooking school or something in Italy, and she's not really sure if she should go and if she should leave Lucas and obviously the cafe. But then Deb, you know, they've kind of reconciled, and, you know, whatever, she offers to look after the cafe for her while she's gone. She's like, don't worry, I'll look after the cafe. Keith says, you know, and I'll look after Lucas, you should take this opportunity and you should 100% go, which I really liked. So Lucas really encourages her to do this, which I really loved, and she ends up leaving, and she actually gives Keith a kiss goodbye before she gets on the plane, because they've kind of been toying with that idea of, you know, Keith and Karen, like, is this going to be something, is this not? So that was a really sweet moment. And Nathan goes and he apologizes to Haley, and they end up having their first kiss. And even though I have given Nathan a lot of shit because I really did not think I was going to like him, he has like really, really grown on me, and him and Haley, I think, easily have the best chemistry on the show. So even though he was being a bit of a tit, I was like, please just sort this out, because I want this relationship to work.
Well, who do you want to be, Nathan?
I want to be somebody who's good enough to be seen with you.
And Dan is also becoming kind of angry with Deb for befriending Karen. He's like, this is weird, like we're supposed to not like them, and Deb is just kind of like, grow up, like she's a nice person and I want to do this with the cafe, because obviously she had, I don't know if she'd quit her job, but she was like taking time off or something to spend more time with Nathan and Dan. So she kind of had to put that part of her life on hold, and doing the cafe is not only, you know, helping out someone that I don't think she feels like indebted to Karen, but obviously she knows that at the end of the day, Dan chose her and to support Nathan over supporting Karen and Lucas. So I think there is a part of her that does feel like she kind of not owes her, but like she just wants to help her out. And you know, Dan kind of had pitted them against each other for so long that she feels bad that she misjudged her, and now is able to do something nice for her while also doing something for herself. You know, she enjoys doing the cafe, she wants to do this. So I liked that she didn't let Dan kind of discourage her from doing that. And yeah, Brooke was a real cutie in this episode. Obviously in the previous episode, or was it the episode before this now? This video, by the way, was supposed to go up so long ago. It was supposed to go up in, I can't remember when I posted that community tab about it, like November? Maybe even October. This video was supposed to go up, so I'm so sorry that it's so late, but it has just been such a huge project. I thought it would be like an easier one to film and get done, but just with Christmas and just everything, I've not had the time, but it's up now, so hopefully it was worth the wait. But anyway, yeah, so Brooke had kind of, you know, she'd not impressed me with how she, you know, embarrassed Nathan and Haley and kind of put a spanner in their connection. But you know, like I had mentioned, she has a lot more to her, and you kind of, like I said, as this season goes on, you see why she is the way that she is. So I wasn't going to hold that against her, and she does make amends for that in this episode, which was really lovely. She, you know, sets up this date for Haley and Nathan to try and fix things between them, which I really loved.
What's your idea of a perfect date?
Watching you get hit by a bus.
The scene with Peyton when she is drugged was absolutely gut-wrenching. Like, it was awful. I cried watching it. You know, it's just so many people experience something as horrible as this, and you know, obviously luckily Brooke was there and was able to help her, but it was really tense. It was really harrowing, but you know, I do think it's also important to talk about these things, portray them in mainstream media, make sure that people are aware and they stay safe and they do the things they need to do to stay safe when they go out with their friends, which is so sad that we have to worry about these things, but unfortunately we do. But anyway, yeah, I found it really, really emotional to watch, but I did really like how they handled it. You know, Brooke was doing absolutely anything and everything that she could to help Peyton, which I thought really showed us another level of their friendship. And then you had the student nurse that was telling them to find the pills and then telling them exactly what they needed to do and how they could help Peyton and kind of educating them through it. And then obviously Lucas and Brooke waiting for her, making sure she was fine while she slept, staying up the whole night to make sure that she, you know, was okay. I did really, really love that side of it. And Nathan's date with Haley was really, really cute, what Brooke had set up for them. You know, he just had to ruin it by being a jackass. Like, why is he like this? Why is he like this? But anyway, you know, and also it was just so dumb because, like, to be fair, we are obviously talking about an early 2000s show, and the early 2000s is just a minefield for body shaming and the beauty standards and just absolutely everything is a bit of a nightmare when you look back at pop culture from the 2000s. So I'm not surprised that Hailey is kind of supposed to be this, you know, nerdy girl that Nathan would be embarrassed of being seen with, but like it's utterly ridiculous because she is so incredibly gorgeous and she's so sweet and kind, and like the idea that he would be embarrassed to be seen with her I just thought was so ridiculous. But this is also the time in media where they tried to convince us that, you know, Bridget Jones was undateable even though she was absolutely drop dead gorgeous. And it was a tough culture. It was a tough time to grow up in the early 2000s with, you know, like the tabloids and what the media was portraying as kind of the ideal beauty standard. But yeah, I feel like that really, I was just like, why on earth would Nathan be embarrassed to be seen with Hailey? There was literally no reason for it. Like she's smart, she's one of the smartest kids in the school, she's absolutely gorgeous, she's so sweet, so kind. Like I was like, this doesn't make any sense. But yeah, like I said, I loved their kiss at the end, so that was really worth it. Yeah, their chemistry for me is truly 10 out of 10. And he did redeem himself when he was talking about, you know, that he wanted to be somebody that was good enough to be seen with Hailey rather than like her feeling like she wasn't good enough to be seen with him and whatever. So he did redeem himself, but I was like, this trope is it's just ridiculous. And my hatred for Dan, it grows with every single episode. I'm like, we've got 8 more seasons after this, so I am expecting, I guess, a Dan Scott kind of turnaround at some point, unless he just stays a villain the whole time, like kind of like Bart Bass style. So yeah, I'm kind of interested in that, but my hatred for him grows every single episode. Like, how dare he say that Nathan can do better than Hailey? Like, in what world? This is what I'm saying. Like, it just baffled me, the idea that Hailey was punching with Nathan. Like, they don't run in the same social circles, obviously, and like, I guess, you know, he is more popular than her in the social hierarchy, but that's just because she is more quiet and reserved and she doesn't really get involved in, like, you know, she's not on any kind of sports team or anything like that. So yeah, Dan saying that he could do better than Hailey, I was just like, what are you talking about? And yeah, like I mentioned before, I was really into the chemistry between Lucas and Brooke in this episode. Them, you know, talking about their parents and bonding. I thought it was really sweet, and when she said that she called him because she knew that he would come, I just thought was really, it just showed how much she thought of him, and that she genuinely really does like him. And yeah, I just thought their chemistry was really good. I know that it's a whole Peyton, Brooke, Lucas love triangle. I think quite a lot as the series goes on, we're gonna see the couple switch and swerve and everything like that. So who knows by the end if I will be more of a Peyton and Lucas or a Brooke and Lucas, but at the moment I was really liking the chemistry between the two of them. And yeah, like I mentioned, I loved the storyline of Karen being able to, you know, have this dream of hers and still be able to do it and go and do this cooking class in Italy, you know, and that it wasn't too late to do it. You know, she wasn't too old to do it. She wasn't, you know, because she was a mum, she couldn't go, like all this stuff that I feel like people can often feel stops them from doing the things they want to do, like a little bit later in life. I really liked that everyone encouraged her to go, especially Lucas, and that she didn't hold back, she just went for it. And I thought that was, yeah, a really lovely story, and I really liked that. And yeah, the like kind of budding friendship between her and Deb is really sweet as well, because obviously Dan Scott is public enemy number 1, so the girlies got to stick together.
You better hope to God she's all right.
So episode 9 is called With Arms Outstretched, and this had 3.78 million viewers. So Nathan is feeling really under pressure, and after fighting with both Dan and Haley, he takes amphetamines, like performance enhancing drugs, right? To help with this big game that they have coming up, because it's something about Dan's scoring record, because obviously everything with Dan, he makes it about himself. Even when it's supposed to be about Nathan, he can't just support Nathan. He has to constantly be in competition with him. So Nathan is like desperately wants to beat his dad's scoring record so that he can basically get him off his back. So he decides he's going to take these pills to kind of help with the game.
42. Yeah, I'm looking to top that this week.
No, you won't. You want to know why? Because you're not tough enough inside.
But he doesn't really take into consideration the impact that the drugs will have on him. You know, not just like his body, but also his emotional state, and it kind of feeds out into his whole life. So as he's taking them, I obviously am not well versed in the world of performance enhancing drugs, but I assume it's got something to do with like testosterone and like, I don't know, you can let me know down in the comments. But basically he, you know, becomes more and more agitated, and he starts treating Haley really badly and pressuring her to hook up with him when he already knows that she isn't ready to do that. So that really puts another kind of wedge in their relationship. Peyton then goes to Lucas and asks if he's happy for them to just be friends. And I think he's a bit kind of caught off guard by it, but he says yes. And then Brooke ends up taking him out to a bar, and they get drunk, and like gets a tattoo, which completely pisses off Keith, because he's like, you know, if Karen was here, you wouldn't be doing this. But outside of that, I thought that scene in the bar was super fun. Their chemistry was 10 out of 10. And obviously Sophia Bush, who plays Brooke, and Chad Michael Murray, who plays Lucas, did go on to date and even get married for a little while in real life. So I think that is what is kind of driving their chemistry for me, is that they just have such amazing chemistry, because obviously outside of the show they had really amazing chemistry, and I think that just really translates on screen.
Deal?
Okay. Deal.
Should we shake on it or just make out now?
So then at this game, Nathan is 2 points away from beating his dad's record, and this is when he passes out, because I think he was taking too many of the pills than like the kind of recommended dose is. And also he's obviously not getting them from like a doctor or anything, because he doesn't need them, so there's no kind of knowing like the kind of, I don't know, the quality, I guess, of them. I feel like I'm so out of my depth, like I just don't, I don't really know what I'm talking about, but it's fine. We move. Basically they're bad, okay? Taking these pills is bad. So Nathan ends up collapsing in front of everyone, and he wakes up in the hospital, and he overhears Dan talking to the doctor, and the doctor is like, this is why your son passed out, like he is taking these drugs. And Dan refuses. He's like, absolutely not, your tests are wrong, do the test again, my son does not take drugs. And Nathan just feels like his dad is never going to understand, and he doesn't want to go back to living there. Like, it pushed him to do this, it pushed him to take these drugs, so he knows that this is not a good environment for him. And so he sneaks out of the hospital, and he goes and spends the night at Haley's house and apologizes to her for how he treated her. And yeah, his character development is really getting somewhere now.
I saw you. I promised myself that if I could just get up, I'd walk over to you. tell you how much I need you. Nothing else matters.
And Dan actually kind of conveniently forgot to tell Deb about this, and she's furious that he didn't, you know, call as soon as this happened. So she ends up kicking him out of the house, and kind of, you know, it's kind of up in the air. Are they going to separate? Are they going to stay together? So because of Nathan's, you know, collapse and like near-death experience, basically, Whitey puts up a sign on the gym that says the basketball is postponed until further notice. Peyton then goes to Lucas's house, and she basically confesses to him that she kind of wants to rekindle their relationship, and the things that he said he wanted, you know, when he kind of freaked her out and was like, I want to be together, she wants that too. So she's, you know, saying, should we try and give this another go? But then Brooke is there, and it's obvious that they have, you know, slept together, and the episode ends with Lucas in the middle of both of them, like kind of not really knowing who to choose. And obviously we as the audience don't know who he's going to choose. And I want to know, obviously, if you have seen it or if you're watching along with me, that would be so fun. If you haven't seen One Tree Hill before, you should start watching it, and then like we'll watch it at the same time. That would be so cute. Anyway, in this moment, who did you want Lucas to choose? Because for me, I wanted him to choose Brooke, and I don't know, I just thought their chemistry was so good. So I was like, you have to choose Brooke, Lucas. Come on now. And yeah, like I said, the sexual tension between Lucas and Brooke is just 10 out of 10. Their chemistry is amazing. And I was just invested from the jump with them. Whereas I think Lucas and Peyton, I could definitely come around to them, but I need to see more. Whereas I think for me, Lucas and Peyton had more of a kind of instant connection. And yet, every time that it feels like Dan might be coming around and is actually going to be nice to Nathan for once, he just can't. He's actually just incapable of it, and he makes it all about him again every single time, and puts Nathan down, and then has a go at Deb like for it as well. Like, this man actually needs slapping down. Like, so why is no one, like, Deb, bless her heart, she tries, but no one is putting this man in his place. Like, it's just this constant victim mentality. It's all about him. He blames Nathan for everything. He blames Deb for everything. He's horrible, you know, to Nathan, but tries to pass it off as if it's him, you know, caring about him and wanting to do well. And Nathan's struggle with these performance-enhancing drugs is so sad, because it just seems to purely stem from the pressure that Dan puts on him. Because if Dan didn't put this pressure on him and this whole thing about being his score and everything like that, he would be happy to just play basketball, and he would still play at a good level. But Dan just has to take it that step further, and he basically pushed his son into taking these drugs and then doesn't even really seem to care. And then because of that pressure that Dan is putting on him, it is then seeping into other areas of his life, like, you know, getting in the way of his relationship with Haley. And it's like Dan can't see that he is low-key ruining his son's life to fulfill his own kind of like ego and live vicariously through him. He literally passes out, collapses, has to go to the hospital, and Dan's first thought is about how the scouts will react to it. Not, is my son okay? What's wrong with my, like, what is going on with him? Why would he do something like this? No, it's like straight to, what will people think about this? Will he still be able to get into college? Like, it's just crazy. And then he doesn't even tell Deb about it. Haley goes to the cafe and is like, you know, do you know about Nathan? And she's like, no. Like, it's just insane. It's actually just insane.
He'll be as good as new. Hell, the scouts won't even remember this come the postseason.
And Whitey, the coach, not even his dad, the coach is the one that recognizes the damage that this is doing and the pressure, and that he, you know, sees that this is all going too far, and that the team's mental health is more important than basketball. And Dan, literally, his father doesn't recognize that, but Whitey does, which at least there was that, which I thought was nice. I really like Whitey as a character. And honestly, the scene with Deb and Dan was wild. Like, Deb blames, you know, Dan, and then Dan blames her right back. Like, they are fully, like, getting into it. And she tells him to, like, get out of the house, and he says, well, it's my house. And I was like, oh my goodness gracious. And so she says, okay, you can stay, but I will leave and I will take Nathan. And so then he is the one that ends up going, and she literally says to him, pack a bag and leave, or I will stab you in your sleep. Just as I was saying that Dan needed to be put in his place, Deb was like, I am up to the task. And I love her for that.
Pack a bag and get out. Or so help me God, I will stab you in your sleep. And you better pray that my son is okay.
Do you really think Nathan would choose you over me?
But then he kind of Uno reverses it a little bit, and he's like, well, do you really think that Nathan would choose you over me? And then she's kind of like, and it's so frustrating because she just had a career. Like, that is it. Like, she had a career and Dan blames her for it and is using it as a reason to be like, oh, well, you were away all the time, so do you really think Nathan would choose, like, you over me when I'm the one that's here all the time? And even though he is terrible, but the fact that he's there, even though he's there and terrible, he still uses it to make Deb feel bad. Like, it's the most insane manipulation. I also really like the kind of budding friendship between Haley and Peyton. I thought that was really sweet. You know, Haley kind of confides in her that she is a virgin, and I loved Peyton's attitude towards it. I'm not gonna go on a whole rant about it because I've talked about it many a time on this channel, how I kind of feel about that whole construct, but I think it's really important for shows to set a precedent of not adding a lot of pressure, and, you know, making young people feel like they have to if they don't want to, or that they should feel ashamed for not having done it yet. I think I'm not even going to get into it because I'll go on a rant about it all day, but yeah, whenever you're ready. Whenever you're ready.
Are you a virgin?
Yeah. So what if I am?
Good for you.
And Nathan running away from the hospital to Haley at the end. I am beyond obsessed with their relationship. I think they are so cute. Easily my favorite couple in the show, which is not where I thought I would be when I was watching the pilot. But I just think they are 10 out of 10. Amazing. And yeah, like I said, at the end of this episode, I was already on the Lucas and Brooke train. Like, I've been on it since the last episode. So when it was kind of like a Brooke or Peyton situation, I was team Brooke because I felt like Peyton had just kind of messed him around a bit too much at this point. And obviously she was figuring out what she needed, which is absolutely fine. Like, she shouldn't have rushed into it or anything. But she did then literally ask him if it was cool to be friends, and, like, never explicitly told Brooke not to go out with him or anything. So yeah, I don't know. I was just kind of like, I was already there. I was already Brooke and Lucas. So this episode was actually the mid-season finale, which is kind of wild because we've got like 13 more episodes or something. So it's a bit of a weird like break in the episode numbers. But anyway, and this aired on November 18th, 2003. And so now we are moving on to the second half of season 1. And this premiered on January 20th, 2004. With another huge increase in viewership. Like, there are some crazy things that happen in this show, even just in this one season, but that cliffhanger of Brooke or Peyton, people, they wanted to know. So now we're going to talk about episode 10, which, like I said, is the mid-season premiere, and it's called You Gotta Go There to Come Back. It had 4.2 1.35 million viewers. That's crazy. That is crazy numbers. People, they needed to know. They needed to know who he was going to choose. And luckily, I only had to wait 2 seconds to find out who he was going to choose. I can't imagine waiting like, what's that, like 3 months or something to know. So Lucas decides that he wants to be with Brooke. And honestly, I was very happy about this, as you could probably tell. And it kind of leaves Peyton having to pretend that everything is fine because she doesn't end up telling Brooke about this. She, you know, just kind of accepts that Lucas has chosen Brooke and there's no need to kind of damage their friendship by telling her that she wanted a man, basically. And YT tells the team that he will not be resuming practice until the team can find the fun in playing basketball again and take this stress and, you know, this what is doing the damage to them out of the game. Dan then tries to rekindle things with Deb. Like, when I say that Nathan messes everything up, I see where he gets it from, because Dan is incapable of doing anything right. But honestly, he like doesn't even really try. So at least Nathan is like trying to be a good person, whereas Dan is just never trying to be a good person, but just trying to make things go his way. So anyway, and she's like, absolutely not. I'm not going on this weekend away with you. Like, if you want to rekindle with anyone, it should be your son who you're neglecting. Okay? So then he ends up taking Nathan on this trip instead. And at first Nathan's, you know, kind of excited. Well, not excited, but like, you know, kind of like, oh, he's at least putting in an effort, until he realizes, oh, this trip was actually meant for you and mum, not me. You've just taken me because she said no. So then, and again, Dan just acts like an absolute tit when they're playing golf. Like, everything is a competition. Everything is like him versus Nathan. So Nathan's just like, I don't need this. And he just decides to go back home.
It's all about you, isn't it, Dad? You know why Mom kicked you out? Because you're a bully. You don't give a damn about anything other than your own ego.
Will you keep your voice down?
No!
And then Deb actually sees Lucas and Brooke buying condoms in the pharmacy or the local drugstore or whatever. And she's a bit like, okay, things are kind of a bit different now that Karen's left. So she tells Keith about this, and Keith goes to Lucas and is like, look, I feel like, you know, this tattoo thing and now this new girlfriend, like, I feel like you're kind of really pushing the boundaries now that Karen isn't here, and that, you know, I'm not really, like, at the end of the day, he's his uncle, and he's never had to discipline him like a parent, so he feels like Lucas is kind of taking advantage of that. Also this episode, Haley and Deb feel like the cafe's kind of quiet, so Haley decides to organise an open mic night, and Gavin DeGraw, I think it is, ends up playing, and like, it's a really big success, and he's actually the person that sings the theme tune to One Tree Hill, so he sang that, and I just thought that was like a really like fun little thing that they included. And at this open mic night, Jake ends up revealing to everyone that he is a single dad, which I just thought was so cute. I absolutely adore Jake. I think he is one of the best characters, and I love that he was just, you know, kind of ready to tell everyone, and like Lucas just seemed really proud of him, and I just thought that was so sweet. And I really like Lucas and Jake's friendship. I kind of wish we would have gotten more of that. And yeah, like I said, Peyton's really struggling to accept Lucas and Brooke's relationship, because obviously, being Brooke's best friend, she wants her to hang out with them, and she really struggles, but kind of ultimately decides to just swallow her feelings because she's too scared to tell them how she really feels about it. And now, like I said, I was really happy that he chose Brooke, but oh, honey, did I have a big storm coming, because it just got so much worse for poor Brooke after this. But yeah, Brooke is so sweet. I just love her. Like, yes, is she oblivious to how Peyton is feeling? She is, but she's, you know, caught up in this new romance, and she's really, you know, sweet, and she's trying to make sure that Peyton's okay, which obviously Peyton is insisting that she is. So what else is Brooke kind of meant to go on, I guess. And yeah, I love their friendship so much, Brooke and Peyton. And I hate the idea that Lucas is going to ruin it. Because that's just so messed up. That is so messed up. Don't mess with my gal pal friendships. They're my favourite thing about teen dramas.
How's over bros?
And I also, you know, we're getting more Nathan Scott character. You know, the character building, we're getting the development. I'm loving it. And I really liked how considerate he was with Hayley about the whole, you know, she'd not had sex before thing, that she wanted to wait, and he was really sweet about that, which we love. We love. And Dan is wild, okay? Every time that you think this man cannot get worse, he manages to find new lows. He finds new lows every single episode, right? He's trying to fix his relationship with Deb before he even talks to Nathan. And then, you know, and he only really takes Nathan on this trip to impress Deb. Like, it is not about connecting with Nathan, and it's so incredibly frustrating. And he still makes it a competition. And then is mad at Whitey for cancelling practice. Even though Whitey is literally cancelling practice for Nathan's well-being. That's the whole reason he's doing this. And Dan is mad at him for considering his son's well-being. Oh, Dan Scott.
She's beautiful.
Thanks, babe.
Get in.
So episode 11 is called The Living Years, and this had 3.81 million viewers. So even though practice has started up again, Nathan has decided to stop going, and he and Hayley spend the afternoon at the beach house, and they are drinking and everything, and Dan catches them and, you know, kind of angrily confronts Nathan about not doing basketball anymore, and it's just like, actually speak to your son.
Okay, 1, 3, 5.
Nice knowing you.
It's the same thing that I have in Gossip Girl with Jenny and Rufus, because I feel like we get to a point where Rufus is so hellbent on being right and scolding Jenny that he never actually sits down with her and is like, why are you doing these things? Like, clearly something else is going on here, parents. Anyway, if Dan Scott has no haters, I'm dead, because this man... But then I did a complete 180 on Nathan, but I just don't see it happening with Dan. I just don't. And in terms of Brooke and Lucas, they're kind of struggling with having anything in common. Like, they have a really great sexual relationship and like that chemistry. But outside of that, they don't really have a lot of common interests, and it makes Brooke feel kind of insecure and a bit jealous because Peyton and Lucas do have those things. So Deb is like, look, we should go to family counselling, and they all go, Dan, Nathan and her, but the tension between Deb and Dan just starts to grow, and it just doesn't really help at all. And we actually meet Peyton's dad in this episode for the first time. I can't remember his name right now for the life of me, but he's very sweet, and Peyton absolutely adores him, and she's just really wants to ask him to stay in town, but he, you know, works and enjoys working and all this stuff, so she doesn't really want to ask him to stay. But after Lucas chats to him, then he decides that he wants to be around more, and after this next job, which is, you know, a bit far away, he's only going to take local ones after that, which was really cute. And like I said, Nathan's not been going to basketball practice, and with, you know, the family pressure and the fighting and absolutely everything, he tells Hayley that he is actually going to quit the basketball team. And I think he does go to Whitey and say that he is quitting.
Do you really love this game?
I do. I just hate what it's doing to my life.
And I really liked the Lucas and Brooke story, because I like seeing that perspective of people who have an instant attraction but, you know, struggle to connect past that. But I thought that it was, you know, really sweet that Brooke seems genuinely committed to getting to know him better and working on that. And yeah, I just loved that. I just love them. I just think, I think they're just such a good match. I mean, I'm probably going to eat my words, but I really did love them at this stage. And Lucas says that he likes that they're different and they have different interests and they get to kind of share those things with each other. And Brooke says that it's scary because usually she doesn't care about boys, but she does care about him. And I just love it. Like, I think they're so cute, but also we're getting to see a lot of Brooke and her character shine through more, and her personality, and kind of how, like I said, we get to see why she is the way that she is. So I love that aspect of it as well.
And that really scares me because I never gave a rat's ass before. Okay. But I do now.
That's good. Because I give a rat's ass about you too.
And I think we see a lot of Lucas and Keith's relationship, obviously, because Keith kind of decided to help Karen and stay with, like, her rather than Nathan and Dan. And so we see that really sweet relationship between Lucas and Keith. But I liked in this episode that we started to see Nathan and Keith talk, because obviously he is his uncle as well. And, you know, Keith saying that he can always come to him and talk to him, I thought was really lovely. And Peyton, like, even though I wasn't really, you know, a huge fan of her and Lucas at this moment, she is so gorgeous. Like, her hair is so gorgeous. And she offered to watch Jenny, who is obviously Jake's daughter, for him, which I thought was really sweet. And I didn't consider them as a couple. Like, I don't know, they just never really interacted, but I really, really liked them. I thought they had great chemistry, like, right off the bat, as soon as they, like, started interacting with each other. And so, yeah, I was team Lucas and Brooke and Peyton and Jake, and it was really cute. She, like, stopped Jenny from crying by, like, shaking her keys, and then later on Jake does the same thing because he'd seen Peyton do it, and I just thought that was really cute. We're also starting to see Haley's attitude change as she grows closer to Nathan. So like I said, you know, she skipped school to go with him to the beach house. And she ends up getting an F on a test and not really caring about it. And it's kind of freaking Nathan out because he's like, I kind of fell for Haley, how she was before, like the tutor Haley, and the things that her really caring about school and, you know, all these things was kind of what made her her, and he doesn't want her to lose herself in his kind of lifestyle and for him to influence her in a bad way. And also when Peyton's dad said, oh, I've just got one last job to do, I just had a horrible feeling that something awful was going to happen to him, because I don't know, I just felt like, oh, I feel like they've put this plot point in here for a reason, and I was right. Episode 12 is called Crash Course in Polite Conversations, and this had 3.89 million viewers. And this episode is an absolute doozy. It is so good. Peyton ends up finding out that her dad is lost at sea on this job. What did I tell you? I knew it. I knew it. As soon as that happened, I was like, oh my God. Like, anyway. So Brooke decides she's going to stay at Peyton's house and wait to hear anything. She's gonna, like, wait by the phone. Lucas then takes Peyton on an overnight trip to Hilton Head, which is so insane, because obviously PLL fans, One Tree Hill is set in North Carolina. Hilton Head, North Carolina is the golf, like, club, country club that Allison goes to on the weekend that she, you know, disappears in season 1. And I just thought that was, like, so random. But anyway, and it's to identify a body that has washed up ashore and to see if it's her dad, which, oh my God, was so heartbreaking. Oh my God, insane. and they're not able to get like across the bridge, so they have to stay in a motel overnight. And obviously Peyton is just like waiting for what she feels is the inevitable, because she's already lost her mum. So she's like, what is stopping something else awful from happening to me? And luckily in the morning, Brooke rings her and says, your dad is fine. I've just like spoken to someone from his work that said that he is okay. And obviously Peyton is so overcome with emotion, she's so relieved that she ends up kissing Lucas, and they almost end up having sex. And the thing that stops them is that a necklace that Lucas is wearing that Brooke gave him gets caught in Peyton's hair, and it kind of reminds them of Brooke, and they decide to stop. And I was just like, poor Brooke, man. Like, she is just, this is so awful. Like, it's so awful.
Sorry. Brooke gave me that necklace.
So you got all of that going on, right? Then on the other side of this, you have the Scotts. Obviously that then includes like Haley and everything, and Dan's parents come to town, and it is just an absolute shit show. All kinds of family secrets are revealed at Dan's birthday dinner. It's revealed that Dan actually ended up quitting baseball and lied about the injury. He always kind of told Nathan, and I think everybody, his dad, Deb, that he was forced to quit because of an injury. But actually, his mum kind of drops this bombshell that he did have an injury, but that he would have been able to keep playing. And he decided the pressure from his dad was too much and he quit, which is literally just history repeating itself. And Nathan hearing this is like, all of this, like, you're a huge fraud. And he becomes even more motivated to beat his dad, and so he rejoins the basketball team. And like, to be honest, Peyton, Lucas and Brooke are like a weird trio to me. Not that like you can't hang out like that, like with your best friend and their boyfriend, but just knowing that Peyton obviously liked him and stuff, it just felt like they were like forcing them to be a trio, when in reality I feel like that wouldn't really be a trio that would hang out as often as they seem to. And yeah, like I said, this episode was so intense, so emotional, you know, from start to finish, with everything with Peyton's dad. When Brooke told Lucas that she loved him on the phone, like, my heart just broke for her, because it was so obvious that Peyton and Lucas still had feelings for each other, and my heart just broke for her. And then the only reason that, like I said, they stopped having sex was because of Brooke's necklace. I was just like, this poor girl, like, somebody come and save her. I mean, it was a full-on Serena and Nate moment, and Brooke was Blair. Like, it's a tale as old as time. They walked, like, Lucas, Brooke and Peyton walked so that Nate, Blair and Serena could run. Truly.
Lucas, Brooke is my best friend, and she's your girlfriend.
I know.
But nothing. Okay? That's where we're at right now.
Look, Blair's my best friend, and you're her boyfriend, and she loves you. That's the way things are supposed to be.
And Lucas says that while Brooke is really great, she's not Peyton, and they decide that they do want to be together. And I was just like, oh, you couldn't have figured this out before Brooke fell in love with you, you bastard. And honestly, all the Scott family tea that was being spilled at this Dan's birthday dinner, it was rivaling the Gossip Girl Thanksgiving episode. Like, I was half expecting Jason Derulo to be playing in the background, because everyone was spilling secrets. Everyone was like arguing with each other. Like, oh my God, it was fabulous TV. Dan had asked Deb not to say anything about them splitting up. So they were basically pretending to be a happy family. She throws him under the bus, basically. The granddad is pitting Nathan and Dan against each other, but also Haley had met Granddad Scott earlier that day because he came into the cafe to see Karen, but obviously she wasn't there. So she was like, why would he come and see? So that whole thing is going on underneath the surface as well. And Nathan asks why he still sees Karen. So then Dan's like, why the hell would you still see Karen? Like, oh my God, there was just so much going on. And then, yeah, the mum reveals that he didn't have the permanent knee injury. Like, that wasn't true. And that Dan just couldn't be the star that the dad wanted him to be. So the dad is fuming, Dan's fuming, Nathan's fuming. Like, oh my God. Chef's kiss. Brilliant TV. Episode 13 is called Hanging by a Moment, and it had 4 million viewers. Slayed. So Lucas and Peyton are kind of struggling with their feelings for one another, and they don't know what to tell Brooke, so they start sneaking around together. Shady business, okay? Shady, 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 shady business. Like, I hated when Serena did that to, well, Serena and Nate, lest we forget about him. Nate and Serena did that to Blair, and that was only the one time. But like repeatedly, like going behind Brooke's back and secretly dating behind her back. Meanwhile, she is fully falling in love. Like, she realizes that she's in love with him. How cruel can you be? Actually, how cruel can you be?
I'm just anxious about my mom coming back tomorrow.
Yeah, me too.
Why you?
Because I want her to like me. Plus, she sounds really cool, and I'm not that close with my mom, so I just think it'd be great if I hit it off with yours. I'll be okay. People that are meant to be together always find their way in the end.
And Keith is really nervous about Karen coming home because he is ready to kind of start this relationship with her and just wants to make sure that she is on that same page. But he gets into a fight with Dan because everyone's always fighting with Dan, and he ends up drinking to kind of calm himself down. I think he has like 2 or 3 beers or something to just kind of like get his nerves down. And this isn't something like that I really noticed until this episode. This episode was when I looked back and was like, oh, actually, Keith does drink quite a lot. He drinks with Whitey in the first episode, like he has his own flask. He then drinks again when him and Dan fight at that like big dinner party when Karen's there. It is obviously a bit of a coping mechanism for him. Haley then catches Peyton and Lucas kissing, and obviously she is angry. And she is like, why would you do something like this? Like, how could, like, this is not the person that I know. He would not do something this horrible. And they get into this huge heated argument over it when Lucas actually says, well, the only reason that you're with Nathan is because Nathan wanted to hurt me. That's the only reason he's dating you. And obviously this pisses Haley off, and she's fuming, and she storms off, and she's like, we're done. We're not friends. Like, I've had enough. I don't want to speak to you anymore. And we're really starting to see a shift in Lucas's character. And this is where I started feeling like, oh gosh, maybe I am a Nathan Scott and not a Lucas Scott, which in the first episode, never would you have caught me saying that. But yeah, his character is changing, and I feel like I adored him so much in the first few episodes. He was so sweet, but his character already feels different, which is so crazy because we've not even had that many episodes. We're on like episode 13. But he already feels different to the Lucas that we had in the first few episodes. Deb actually then catches Dan flirting with another woman and realizes that she does want a divorce, but Dan does not want a divorce and is like, absolutely not. Haley and Nathan then get into a fight because of everything that's gone on. She doesn't say about Peyton and Lucas, but he does admit that he started dating her to upset Lucas, which she did not like. So Keith and Lucas then get into the truck to go and pick up Karen from the airport, and Keith is driving, and they are then hit head on by a car and at like a intersection, like stoplight thing, and it crashes straight into Lucas's side of the car. Dan happened to be driving at the same time, witnesses this, and pulls Lucas out of the car and takes him to the hospital. And Lucas is in bad shape. Like, he needs surgery, he is losing blood, and they say, we need someone to sign off on this surgery. And Dan actually, you know, acknowledges that he's his son. He says, I'm his dad, you can do the surgery, which was insane. This must be like... okay, maybe not on the same level, but like this must be like kind of how people felt when Darth said, I'm your father to Luke, because him fully acknowledging that he was his dad was crazy, and like saving his life and saying, I'm his dad, do the surgery, like I'm his parent. Insane. I was like, oh my God. Maybe this is the Dan Scott redemption arc I've feared so greatly.
Do whatever you need to do, Doc.
You're his legal guardian. He's my son.
So then in the hospital, Lucas is having his surgery and Keith is there and he's being asked by a doctor how many beers he had before driving. And we see Karen at the airport and she's obviously a bit confused. She's like, where is everybody? And then she receives a phone call, obviously telling her that something has happened to Lucas. And in surgery, Lucas flatlines. I was like, we cannot be about to kill him. Like, this, what? Like, he's like, when I picture One Tree Hill, I picture Chad Michael Murray. So I know that he's not dying, but like, watching this, like, if you were watching this for the first time as it was airing, you must have been like, are they just going to kill him off just like that? Episode 14 is called I Shall Believe, and this had 4.39 million viewers, which is another huge peak for the show. So Lucas is revived during his surgery and is now in a coma with an injury to his shoulder. And Karen, when she gets to the hospital, she meets Brooke because Brooke is already there, and Brooke's kind of like, hi, I'm Lucas's new girlfriend. And Karen's like, what is going on here? And she also learns that Deb and Dan are getting a divorce. But obviously the most, well, not the most shocking thing because their son's in a coma, but the second most shocking thing is that Keith was drinking when he took Lucas to pick her up from the airport. And I think he was just barely under the limit, so he doesn't get arrested. But it's still enough for Karen to feel like he betrayed her trust. He was supposed to look after her son and he didn't, and so she asks him to leave. Nathan is also trying to win Haley back because obviously they've had this huge argument, but she is too upset about Lucas to even think about Nathan, and she struggles to kind of bring herself to come and see him in his coma because the last time they spoke to each other was a fight, and she's worried that he might not wake up and that could be their, you know, last interaction ever, is them fighting and her basically saying that their friendship was over. Peyton also struggles to go and visit Lucas because she sees how much Brooke really loves him and she feels obviously incredibly guilty about them sneaking around. Lucas has these really high medical bills, so Karen is kind of like, oh my God, like, I think her insurance covers some of it, but then she's going to have to cover the rest, and she's kind of stressing about that. And Keith, as kind of a way to try and fix at least something, goes and pays the bill for her. Like, it's supposed to be kind of anonymously, but obviously she does find out that it was him. And even though like so many of Lucas's friends went to go and see him, it's actually when Nathan goes and speaks to him that Lucas wakes up out of his coma. So Nathan brings Haley to see Lucas now that he's awake, and they hug and she cries, and they kind of make up.
Hey, buddy. I missed you.
It's actually revealed that Keith was going to propose to Karen, and he had a ring and everything, and it's just like, oh, Keith, bless you. Why did you have to go and ruin it? And Karen goes to Dan and thanks him for saving Lucas's life, and she ends up, you know, kind of breaking down and crying after everything that's happened. And Peyton visiting Lucas was really sweet, and you know what she said?
But I'm with you, Lucas, you know that. And I'll wait forever if I have to.
But I was finding it so hard to root for them or support them at all because Brooke was just being so kind, and it just, for me, made their characters look worse. I wasn't excited that they were finally getting together. I just felt horrible for Brooke. And, you know, Brooke tells Peyton that she's really scared that he's not going to wake up and all this stuff. And it was just like, how can you see how much your best friend loves this guy and still, you know, and have been sneaking around with him? It's just Also, this is a side note, but I always love firstly Brooke's outfits, but also her makeup is also gorgeous. So I'm really excited to get to the Brooke deep dive that I will obviously do eventually, so that I can like recreate some of her makeup looks, because they are just chef's kiss. And like, she's just so sweet. Like, she brings this poster for him, and she kept the coasters from their first date, and she, you know, tells Karen that she's sorry about the tattoo, and that, you know, she kind of doesn't really know how to navigate parents because her mum wouldn't care if she was like on fire, basically, but other mums do, and she has to remember that like not everyone's parents are as kind of dismissive as her parents. So she's sorry that she kind of influenced Lucas like that. And I just thought it was so sweet. Like, she just felt so genuine in that moment. Like, meeting parents for the first time is really nerve-wracking, and the fact that she was just kind of like didn't really know what to say and just kept kind of like digging herself into a deeper hole. Like, I just thought she just felt so endearing and like genuine in that moment. It was just really sweet.
You know, here I'm sitting off key and watch him roll his eyes at me when I steal French fries off his plate. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm crazy about your son, and I hope that's enough for you.
And I really loved, even though it was like proper like corny, and like that Nathan was the person that was speaking to Lucas when he woke up from his coma. Like, he sits there talking to him about Haley, him like putting his hand on his hand, and then he opened his eyes. Like, why can't they just be brothers? Like, why can't they just get along? It would be so sweet. And then, yeah, Haley seeing him, her crying, and I cried like a baby at this episode. I can't even lie. I cried like a baby at the end of this episode. This is why I love TV so much. Like, I do cry at movies sometimes. I actually can't think of the last movie that I cried at. But TV will always get me. You know, you just get so invested in these characters, and there's just actually nothing like it. Episode 15 is called Suddenly Everything Has Changed, and this had 3.87 million viewers. So obviously after he nearly died, Lucas is kind of taking a look at his life, and he realizes that he made the wrong choice between Peyton and Brooke, so he ends up breaking up with Brooke, which is just so sad. I mean, it's obviously what he should do. It's what he should have done before he started sneaking around with Peyton. But my heart just still broke for her in that moment because she just loved him. And then secretly rekindles his relationship with Peyton. Like, have you no shame? Have you people no shame? And Brooke is obviously really heartbroken by this. And so she wants to at least be friends with Lucas because she doesn't want to lose him from her life. And he ends up sneaking out of the house because he's not supposed to leave. So obviously he's just been in a coma. And he sneaks out and goes to Peyton's house, but he ends up passing out and collapsing on her bed, which means that she has to take him to the hospital. Meanwhile, this is happening, Keith, having paid Lucas's hospital bills, is really like not doing well for money. And he decides that he's going to have to put his garage up for sale. Nathan also decides that he doesn't like living with Dan or Deb because of like the constant fighting and it's just making his life hell. So Dan tells Nathan that he is going to fight Deb for, you know, to be able to see Nathan in court. Like, he's going to fight to get full custody, I think it is. And if he has to, he will reveal secrets from her past. And obviously Nathan is like, what secret she been keeping, Deb? And he goes to her, but she can't bring herself to come clean and tell him what they are, which just pisses him off even further. Also, it's really sweet because Karen has given Jake a job at her cafe, and he almost had to quit because, you know, he didn't have anyone to look after Jenny, but she then brought Lucas's cot down and lets him keep like Jenny there while he is working, and she like looks after her, and it was just so cute. I just love it. So Peyton, when Lucas wakes up, ends up breaking things off with him because she feels guilty about Brooke.
After she died, it was Brooke who was there for me. And we were just little kids, and she would come over every single day to make sure I was okay. I can't betray her, Lucas.
You mean even more than we already have?
But then later, this show is just incredible. It's so good. Peyton is talking to Brooke, and Brooke reveals that she saw them. Because I don't actually know if I've mentioned this before, but Peyton has like a webcam thing that she does. And she just has it on in her room while she's like drawing or whatever. And she had it on. And Brooke saw it and knows that Lucas went to her house and that they've both been lying to her. Tell me that is not incredible TV. Tell me that is not incredible teen drama right there. Like, honestly, Brooke ate her up, as she should. I can't even imagine. Like, she tore her a new one, and that is as she should. In this scene, I was just like so team Brooke, more than I've ever been team a character before. I was like, yes, queen, yes.
The next time you want to steal my boyfriend, you might want to turn that thing off. He meant everything to me, Peyton.
And Lucas actually ends up seeing it on the webcam. Like, the webcam's still on, so he sees this whole thing go down between Brooke and Peyton. And honestly, the whole thing with, you know, Brooke, Peyton, Lucas, it just made Lucas and Peyton really unlikable to me. They were just so disrespectful with the whole situation. And honestly, it just made me love Brooke even more. And, you know, like, she was helping Karen with her scrapbook, and like, she's just so sweet. And she did say to Karen that she hoped once Lucas was feeling better, he would give her a second chance, you know, not realizing that he's literally gone to go and date her best friend. Justice for Brooke. Justice for her. I love her so much. I liked the dynamic between Karen and Jake, because she kind of sympathizes with him and says, you know, I was not that much older than you when I had Lucas, so I completely understand what you're going through and want to help you. And I just loved that. So Peyton and Lucas are talking afterwards, and Peyton says that when her mum died, Brooke came over to see her every day and make sure that she was all right, even though they were just kids. Like, it's giving Serena and Blair. Like, it really is. And Brooke is just so sweet, and she just keeps getting better. And the fact that Peyton could do that to her after all that is just crazy. And Lucas, like, she was nothing but lovely to Lucas, and then he just turned around and did that. It's just so shady. And Peyton says that she can't betray Brooke, even though she literally already has. So she decides that her and Lucas aren't going to be together after all that. And Haley and Nathan were just being absolutely adorable as ever. And he asked Haley to sing for him, and they were so cute. I just loved it.
I realized that if I'm gonna live in the moment, I just wanna live in it with you.
Episode 16 is called The First Cut is the Deepest, and this had 3.87 million viewers. So Nathan is at the point where he needs to choose if he wants to live with Deb or with Dan. But Dan decides he's going to take that choice right out of his hands and says if he doesn't choose Dan, then he will take Deb to court and expose all of her secrets and embarrass her in front of everybody. So Nathan feels like he has no other choice but to choose Dan. And he also attempts to bribe Nathan with a new car, I think, or something, which just pisses him off even more. He's like, you're doing too much, Dan, you're doing too much. Brooke is also, as she should, refusing to talk to Peyton or Lucas, saying that she doesn't want to talk to either of them ever again after how badly they betrayed her. So Lucas, because obviously now he isn't with Brooke or Peyton, has decided that he needs to get out of this funk. You know, he's heartbroken over both of them or whatever. So he decides that he's going to go out. So he goes out to a bar and he meets a girl there called Nikki, and they end up going to like a shopping mall, I think, or something, like after hours, and they end up having sex there. But then you know, in the morning she's gone, and also he can't play basketball because of his shoulder injury that he got from the car crash. So all around, Lucas just isn't having the best time.
He wasn't a loner when he left, if you know what I mean.
You know, I'm gonna have a beer.
Make it 2.
Dan swoops in and he offers to buy Keith's garage because obviously Keith needs the money, and he kind of portrays it like, oh, we'll still be able to keep it in the family, and when you're ready you'll be able to buy it back from me. You know, it's very dodgy business. But Keith has no other option, so he is like, fine, Dan, you can buy it from me. Peyton also babysits for Jake in this episode, which I just, like I said, I really love their little dynamic that they've got going at the minute. And Lucas decides that he doesn't like where he's heading. He feels like he doesn't recognize, you know, himself, so he vows to be better. We hope. Deb, realizing, you know, how far Dan is willing to take this, like this man is ready to go to war. So she's like, okay, I'll tell you the truth. And she explains to Nathan that the big secret is that she had actually left Dan for somebody else. This was like a few summers ago, and she chose to spend her summer with this man and left Nathan at home with Dan. And so Nathan is furious because he's like, that summer was awful for me. Like, he treated me so badly while you were away, and now I found out that you left me for some other guy.
All those nights I called you to tell you how he was, you didn't come home because you were with some guy. Don't you see what you did? You gave me to him, Mom. You knew exactly how he was.
Lucas tries to apologize to Brooke again, but she is still just not having it. Nathan decides, well, his dad is horrible to him, right? And now he finds out his mom betrayed him, and, you know, it changed the course of his whole life, right, this summer. So he decides that he just wants to be emancipated from his parents. He doesn't want anything to do with them, and he just wants to move on with his life, just him. We also had another musical performance in this episode, which was Sheryl Crow, and she performed the song The First Cut is the Deepest, which is obviously what the episode is named after, in Karen's Cafe. And it was just really cute because Haley's like a huge fan, and so Nathan was like taking like a picture for her, like she was all happy, and it was just so cute. And then, bitch, at the end of this episode, it is revealed that Nikki, the mysterious girl that Lucas had met in the bar, is actually Jenny's mum, Jake's baby mama. Isn't that not crazy? Is that not insane?
Nikki?
So, how's my daughter?
This show is so good. But also, so this is where my opinion of Lucas like really just took a nosedive, because it was already faltering. Like, you know, it was already kind of, ooh, I don't know if I really like him so much anymore. But this whole thing with Nikki really sealed the deal for me. Aside from that, what is Nikki's deal? How old is she supposed, because she looks old. So like, how old is she supposed to be? She didn't care that Lucas was in high school, so that's dodgy as. So she must be like older. And then also she had slept with Jake and had a baby with him. Like, how old was she then? And like left him to parent this child. So I don't know. She gives me bad vibes.
I screw you over, but you and I were best friends, and I thought that was supposed to mean something.
I haven't any pride.
God, pull it together.
Better.
Episode 17 is called Spirit in the Night, and this had a 3.24 million viewers. So a little bit of a drop. I think this might be our lowest viewed one yet. But, you know, still really good numbers. So we have a little bit of a road trip, field trip vibe for this one, because it is the Ravens are playing a game, but also Brooke and the Raven cheerleaders are entering into a cheerleading competition. I think it's like the Nationals or something. It's like some cheerleading competition, and they have like a kind of rival cheerleader group that they go up against every year. And I just thought this was so fun. Like, it was literally like the Bring It On movies. Like, it was like that kind of vibe, so I really loved it. But then one of the cheerleaders actually ends up being sick and she can't perform, so Peyton goes and asks Haley to perform and like step in to her shoes, which I just thought was so fun. Seeing Haley like really be more integrated in the friendship group, because obviously she was best friends with Lucas, now she's dating Nathan, but I really like her, Peyton and Brooke, like their little dynamic. And obviously Peyton and Brooke are still kind of like at odds, but they agree to just call a truce for the sake of this cheerleading competition. And Peyton does the music for it, and Mouth, who I don't think I've spoken about yet, but he's like one of Lucas's like basketball friends. He's also there because I think he does the commentary for the games. I can't remember. But anyway, he actually helps Peyton and Brooke out, and, you know, helps Brooke kind of choreograph the dance because he had seen the other group's dance. And yeah, I just thought that was fun. Like, seeing new characters interact is always fun. And Karen was actually kind of coming around to forgiving Keith and talking to him, and they were supposed to go for dinner, and he even bought a new shirt and everything. But then she had to cancel, which just broke my heart. Bless him, he was in his new shirt, because she has to chaperone this school trip, and she's chaperoning it with Larry, who was the name I forgot earlier, Peyton's dad, and there's a bit of a vibe going there. So we're having a bit of a like Serena, Dan, Rufus, Lily situation, and honestly they were kind of cute, and I'm like, and I love Lily and Rufus, like, so maybe I'm gonna be a Karen and Larry stan. Like, I don't know, they've kind of got a vibe going. Obviously we knew that when Dan bought the garage it wasn't going to be that easy, and he becomes like really unreasonable and unbearable, so Keith ends up quitting and just giving him the garage, which was like, this man is just the menace to end all menaces, honestly. So Lucas is kind of struggling with the fact that Haley doesn't really have that much time for him anymore, and that, you know, she's gotten so close to Nathan, and obviously him and Nathan, they're not really fighting anymore, but they're nowhere near friends. So he's still kind of upset with the fact that she is obviously seeing him. So the girls basically spend most of the night perfecting their routine, and the guys end up like sneaking out to try and have, you know, some fun, and it all ends in this big kind of like pool party, which obviously isn't allowed to happen, and they've all like snuck down and they're having this pool party, and Haley's like joining in. She looks so cute in her cheerleader outfit, and she's like really part of the group, but Lucas is really like bitter about this. I think he even says that she looks like ridiculous in her cheerleader outfit, which was so mean. Like, he really was just, like I said, absolute nosedive in terms of how I felt about his character. But Nathan stood up for her, which I really loved, and told Lucas not to be mean to her, and I'm obsessed with Nathan and Haley. Like, I adore them.
What do you think?
I think you look ridiculous. Kind of addicted to her tonight. So maybe the problem's not with her. Maybe the problem's with you.
Even though it's only the first season, I think they're probably up there in some of my favourite teen drama couples of all time. So they perform, which was really fun, but they actually don't end up winning. The other team still wins, but Brooke does win the award for best choreographer, which was really cute, and everyone was really happy for her.
Brooke Davis, captain and choreographer of the Tree Hill Ravens.
That's you!
The boys also win their basketball game, and it also happens to be Whitey's 500th game. So yeah, I love Whitey as well. Lucas kind of realizes that he's being a bit of a dick, so he apologizes to Haley and tries to be kind of civil with Nathan. Peyton thinks that, you know, since she helped with the cheerleading thing and like her and Brooke were kind of talking again, that maybe they would be friends again, but Brooke says, no, we just got caught up in the weekend and, you know, all the cheerleading stuff. Like, we are definitely not friends. Like, don't get this confused. And at the very end of this episode, Nathan actually moves out. He moves into his own apartment, so he doesn't have to live with Deb or Dan. Episode 18 is called To Wish Impossible Things, and this had 4.8 million viewers. Like, we're almost hitting like 5 million viewers. Insane. So Lucas, Nathan, and Jake are all auctioned off to the highest bidder in this annual like Toy Boy charity auction thing. So Haley bids on Lucas because he had said, you know, they weren't spending any time together. So she was like, you know what, I'll bid on him and then we'll spend the day together and that'll be fun. And yeah, they end up, you know, like spending the day together and they have a lot of fun, and it's kind of just like before everything got all crazy, like when we first saw them in the pilot. So that was cute. But then things kind of take a bit of a turn when Haley reveals that she had Nathan's like basketball number tattooed on her. She has the number 28. I think he's 28 or 23. Is he 23? It might be 23 actually. And I think maybe Lucas is number 8. Tattooed on her back. And Lucas is like, whoa. And she says that she is in love with Nathan. And like, this was so insane. This is so insane. Because like, they've been dating like not even that long. Like, a tattoo is wild.
23. Haley, why did you do that?
Because I'm in love with him.
So then on to Jake, and he was bid on by Peyton, but she actually ends up losing out to Nikki. And Nikki gets the highest bid, and she basically says to him that she wants to have Jenny back in her life, and he refuses. He's like, no, I've been looking after her. You just left. Like, you can't just come back in and say, oh, like, I want to be a mum now. That's not how this works.
Why don't you go and buy all the things that you think Jenny might need? Get the wrong formula. She needs a special kind because, well, she wasn't breastfed. Well, the alcohol in these wipes are bad for her skin. I buy her a special vitamin because she was a little underweight at her 6-month checkup. She doesn't read. She sure as hell doesn't smoke.
And she says that she will be in Jenny's life with or without him, basically threatening to get full custody of her and take her away from Jake. And yeah, I just think this storyline with Nikki is so like gross. Like, I just don't even know how old she's meant to be. And then like, poor Jake has been left to raise her, and then she's going to come back in and try and steal Jenny from him. Absolutely insane.
You broke my heart, Nikki. But you will never break my daughter's heart because you will never, ever have the chance to.
So back to the auction. Now we're going to go through Nathan. So when Nathan is up for auction, Haley basically begs Peyton to bid for him because she doesn't want any of the other girls at school being able to bid on him. So Peyton does, and she wins with the help of Haley's, like, all of her allowance or something crazy like that. And so they kind of hang out, and there almost seems like there's going to be a vibe, and I was going to be so disappointed in Nathan. Like, I was going to be so heartbroken. But, you know, he kind of shows growth within his character, which was nice. Decides, you know, that he does want to be better for Haley, and he doesn't want to be the guy that breaks her heart, which was really sweet. And obviously Peyton, seeing this, like, we know and she knows how he was in their relationship. So to see him treating Haley so much better than he treated her, I think she was just really impressed with him and like happy to see that he was growing within, you know, himself and kind of being better, which is what she always wanted for him anyway.
The only reason I mentioned it was to let you know that I'm not pressuring you.
Right.
You said I was good in bed.
No, I didn't.
Oh, yes, you did.
Oh, God, kill me.
Then there's the most ridiculous, one of the most ridiculous scenes of this entire series. So Timmy or something? Tim? So Tim is one of the players on the basketball team, and Deb ends up bidding on him. Like, I don't know if she did it accidentally or like she was like, oh, I'll just do it it's just for charity, I'll get him to like clean my house. But he thinks that it's for sex, and then it's so incredibly awkward because like they get into this weird like compromising position where she's like, oh no, this isn't what I thought, and Dan walks in and sees the whole thing. Oh my god, I literally just sat there like, this is horrific. So Karen ends up going on a date with Larry, Payne's dad, like I mentioned in this episode. And Keith has this kind of like heart-to-heart with Whitey and realizes that he can't hide his feelings for Karen. And so he goes and he proposes to her. My heart. My actual heart. We don't find out what she says until the next episode. Brooke actually ends up missing out on the auction, so she spends the evening with Mouth, the guy that I'd mentioned before, and she kind of is just sad, bless her heart, all night about this Lucas thing, about Peyton, and that she's kind of like, you know, she thinks that Lucas is a really great guy and he was actually really good for her, and she's kind of tired of this like party lifestyle. So there is kind of a tradition that you have to have a kiss at the end of like the night with the person that you bid on. Oh, very bizarre. Like very bizarre. But they also did this like bidding thing in 90210, so I think it's like kind of a thing in America. I don't really know. We don't do that here. But anyway, so Peyton and Nathan, they kiss at the end of the night. And Lucas sees this and he thinks it's kind of more than that, which is really ridiculous. I don't know why he blows his kiss so out of proportion, because he and Haley kissed as well, because that was like the point. And like obviously, you know, it was just dumb. It was just dumb. And he's like, oh, like I knew Nathan wasn't like good enough for her and all this stuff, and like keeps it from Haley because he doesn't want to upset her. But I don't know why she would be upset, because it's the rules. And then Brooke finds Lucas, very end of the episode. Keith just proposed. Brooke finds Lucas and tells him that she thinks she is pregnant. They just don't make TV like this anymore. They actually just do not make TV like this anymore. Incredible.
I think I'm pregnant.
Episode 19 is called How Can You Be Sure? And this had 4.4 million viewers. So Brooke takes this pregnancy test and she finds out that she is pregnant. And she said that she went and a doctor confirmed it for her. So Lucas is like, okay, gonna be a dad. Let's process this. And Dan, I hate you so much. He advises Lucas that Brooke should have an abortion because that's what he wanted Karen to do. He literally says to him, I wanted Karen to get rid of you and she didn't, so I think you should get rid of this baby. Like, this man is like, the stuff that comes out of his mouth, I literally just don't think he can get any worse, and then he still manages to just get even worse. It's quite remarkable, really. And Haley and Nathan are kind of struggling with the topic of sex, and Nathan trying his best not to, you know, pressure her, but she still kind of feels the pressure when she finds out that he like watches porn and stuff. And it's honestly, I thought that it was a really great conversation. It's not one that I'd ever really seen like in teen dramas and stuff, how your partner watching like porn or looking at things online can impact not only your self-esteem but also your relationship and that dynamic. You know, some people feel like it is crossing a boundary, some people don't. But yeah, I'd never really seen it like spoken about before, so I thought that was really interesting.
I don't know if I'm ready, Peyton.
Or maybe you're just not sure if Nathan's the right guy.
I can't breathe when I'm around him, and when I'm not around him, I want to be. I'm totally in love with him.
Well, and you've gone further with him than I ever did.
Nathan is also struggling with paying rent for his new apartment, and he ends up selling the car that Dan had gotten him as a bribe, basically. And both Deb and Dan are trying to convince him to move back in with them, and he's just kind of having none of it. And we find out that Karen said no to Keith's proposal, and even though I did think they were cute together, I actually really liked this for her. She says that she wants to find out who she is, you know, without being defined by being a mum. Like, obviously she is a mum and she loves being a mum, but going to Italy showed that she had so much more of herself to kind of explore and find out and live her life. And I just thought that was great. Karen slays.
You mean the world to me, Keith. I'm sorry. I can't marry you.
Nikki is still trying to kind of force her way into Jake's life, you know, like showing up and everything. And she sees Peyton as a bit of a threat because obviously Peyton is kind of getting closer to not only Jake but also Jenny and kind of filling not like that mother role because they're nowhere near that yet, but I think Nikki's kind of like, well, if he has her, he doesn't need me. She then sees Lucas and he is like, I had no idea, like all this stuff, and she's like, yeah, you know, whatever, we'll make a vow we won't tell Jake because that'll just open a whole can of worms. Let's keep it between us. Lucas then goes and tells Karen that obviously Brooke is pregnant and she is just so like heartbroken for him. It's such a weird like thing because she obviously relates to that. That's what happened with her and Lucas, and even though she loves Lucas, she still and like wouldn't change how her life went. She wanted his life to be different. And Lucas decides that he is going to be a dad. Like he is going to be the dad that he never had, that Dan never could be. So he goes to Dan and actually thanks him for, you know, letting him see how Dan really felt about him and show him what not to do basically and how not to raise a child.
If you're not ready, then you're not ready. But if you want to have this baby, then so do I. And whatever it takes for me to be a good father, I'll be there. Always. I promise you. I won't let you down.
And Lucas, bless his heart, like this is where I felt like I was seeing the old Lucas, the early days Lucas shine through a little bit more. And he says to Brooke that he will be there for her no matter what. Like if you're ready, if you're not ready, then you're not ready. But if you want to, then I'll be there. Which was so sweet. It was just such a lovely moment. And then Brooke reveals that she actually isn't pregnant. She says that the test that they took together, it was actually a false positive, and when she went to the doctor, he told her that she wasn't pregnant, but Brooke lied to him to try and hurt him back for, you know, kissing her best friend, which was like, whoa, like, Jesus Christ.
You had just called me a slut.
So you lied to me to punish me? How could you do that?
How could you cheat on me with my best friend?
Keith then goes and tells Karen that he is leaving Tree Hill. He needs to move away. You know, he spent a lot of his life here for her and here for Lucas. And now that, you know, she doesn't really want to be with him, he needs to move on. And he goes and he pawns the wedding ring that he bought her. Then we get this really interesting scene where Dan is at his office and he looks through this like keepsake box and it has pictures of Lucas from when he was a kid and like an article about him in the news and things. So it's kind of like he was maybe like interested in getting to know him or like keeping tabs on him. Like it was just like, it was one of those where I was like, okay, there is so much more to this story that we don't know yet. Nathan also tells Haley that he loves her at the end of this episode, which I thought was so cute.
I love you, Haley.
I love you too.
We also get a really cute scene with Peyton holding Jenny and like sitting with Jake, and like I love that little dynamic. I think it's so sweet. And Lucas tells Karen that it was actually just a scare and that he isn't going to be a dad. And he thanks her for, you know, everything that she has done for him, because I think it almost being in the situation that she was in, even though he was always grateful, just really showed him exactly how Karen would have felt in that moment, finding out that she was pregnant with Lucas. Episode 20 is called What Is and What Should Never Be, and this had 4.23 million viewers. Now that Nathan has his own place, it's kind of like, not his and Haley, she doesn't live there, but it's kind of fun for them to play house a little bit. And she decides that she wants to throw a party, and it's the first party she's ever thrown because Haley actually has like 4 or 5 siblings, I think. And so she's really excited to kind of throw her first party. And Nathan also takes up a job. I think it's like a smoothie place, waffles. Like it's some kind of like food court job at the mall to be able to pay for his rent. And it's like hard for him at first because obviously he's not used to doing anything like this. But he really, you know, he thinks about quitting, but he really puts in the effort, and I really liked that. Haley ends up not inviting Brooke to the party because she's inviting Peyton and Lucas, I think it is. And so Brooke goes to the bar and she ends up meeting Nikki while she's there. And they're both kind of riling each other up, and they decide they're going to go and crash the party together.
I thought I smelled something. Oh, that's skank. And I think it's coming from you.
And, you know, classic teen party scenario. It gets completely out of control. Too many people show up than Haley invited, and then a fight breaks out between Peyton and Nikki, which, oh my god, incredible. Incredible. It was so good. Honestly, Peyton ate her up, and I loved every second of it. It was so good. And I think they were playing like The Darkness as well, which just the soundtrack for this show is absolutely banging, by the way. 10 out of 10.
I asked you if you had a problem.
Yeah, I do. It's called you, bitch.
So then this fight was purely based on like Nikki just ruffling Peyton's feathers and the fact that, you know, Peyton knows what went down with Jake and everything. And it's after this fight that Nikki reveals that she slept with Lucas. So obviously Brooke and Peyton are both really upset by this. Which, like, low-key, Peyton, come on. Like, he cheated on your best friend with you. Did you really think he was going to be, like, the world's most loyal guy? And they also weren't dating at the time. But, like, I completely get where she's coming from, because she basically says that the way that she felt about Lucas, she could never have just gone and slept with someone random. It's kind of like Ross and Rachel. It's kind of that vibe, like that we were on a break, like they were technically on a break, but Ross still shouldn't have just, like, it showed that it didn't mean as much to him by just going out and sleeping with somebody else. So that's where Peyton's coming from. And also Brooke is coming from that exact same place. So I totally get it. Like, I felt like we had a little bit of like sweet Lucas back, and then we lost him again. The police then arrive and they arrest Nathan for the party, bless his heart, when he wasn't even there for the whole thing. But obviously we got underage drinking and fighting, and I think someone even breaks a window or something crazy. Deb and Dan, while this is happening, they're continuing to like fight over the divorce. They're arguing with each other, they're yelling with each other, but then they end up sleeping together, which is just, I mean, that's classic, isn't it? However, I thought like this would be like a right, okay, we're going to try and make it work maybe or something, but no. Dan says that it made him realize they can't go backwards, and that he like wants to get the divorce, and he signs the divorce papers, which I was not expecting at all. I thought either we would have them deciding to work on their marriage, or maybe if anyone, it would have been Deb that was like, no, I'm done with this. But no, it was Dan. So I was like, whoa, okay. So Dan ends up bailing Nathan out of jail for this whole party thing, and Nathan still refuses to come home with him, and Lucas actually stands up for Nathan against Dan, which I did really like. Dan says to Lucas, you should ask Karen what really happened. And so he's like, I thought I knew everything. Why has Dan said this? Keith decides that he's going to take a teaching job in Charleston, and it's really sweet. Him and Lucas have a really sweet moment when, you know, Keith kind of like says that he kind of wanted to be Lucas's dad, and Lucas says that he wanted Keith to be his dad too, and he really wanted it to work out between him and Karen, and that would have been like perfect for both of them, which was a really sweet moment. But Karen, with Keith moving away, it actually makes her realize that she never saw him as more than a friend. So it was just like really sad all around.
I wanted you to be my dad too.
And she says to Lucas, she's like, you know, I do love Keith. I love him so much, but I don't love him in that way. Like, I'm not in love with him. And it was just like, oh, it was just so sad. So then, both being kind of like really hurt by what Lucas did, Brooke and Peyton decide they're going to call a truce. And Peyton obviously wants to be back the way they were, but Brooke says she doesn't really know if they can get back to exactly like that because she is really hurt by what, you know, Peyton did. And they both, you know, kind of like they're both really upset over this Lucas thing. And Brooke's like, well, I guess, you know, he just made a mistake. But Peyton's like, yeah, it just hurts because she didn't think he would make that kind of mistake. And, you know, Brooke cries as well and is obviously, yeah, just really heartbroken over his betrayal still. Which is what is making it hard for her to be friends with Peyton. And Peyton decides she's done with Lucas because he's kind of turned into who Nathan was when she was dating Nathan, and she doesn't want to date a guy like that again. Okay, so episode 21, which is the penultimate episode of the season, is called The Leaving Song, and this had 4.09 million viewers. So Lucas goes to Karen and is like, what was Dan talking about? And she comes clean and she admits that Dan actually asked for joint custody, which was insane. Like, I couldn't believe it. So he had actually asked for joint custody and to be in Lucas's life, and Karen said no. And Lucas is obviously really upset by this, and you know that he never got to really know Dan, just know him as like this guy that abandoned him. And he wonders if things would have been different if Karen would have let Dan into his life.
He told me that he'd like to help raise you, and he asked for joint custody. I said no.
And yeah, so Peyton and Brooke, like I said, both angry at Lucas, so they're now friends again. They're all good, which I love because girl power. Like, I want to, more than anything, I love to see the besties sticking together rather than fighting over a guy. We don't like that. Whitey then has to go and have eye surgery, and Dan becomes the temporary coach of the team, which everyone is just like, oh God, no. Like, this is going to be awful.
Thought you had to invite vampires in.
Oh yeah, so like I said before, Haley was kind of feeling the pressure about having sex, and this is actually the episode, I was getting the episode confused, this is the episode where she finds the porn on his computer, and also like pictures, like screenshots from Peyton's webcam. That I was like, this is weird. Weird. And she's really like offended by this, and she feels like she can't live up to, you know, these women, which I think is a really important conversation to have, and something that a lot of partners deal with in relationships.
You're worried I'm gonna compare you to them?
Yes, I'm afraid. That's part of it. Nathan, it's hard enough for me to even think about being naked in front of you. And the thought that this is the standard I'm going to be held to.
So Peyton then ends up taking Jenny to the mall with Brooke. Like, they're going shopping, so they take Jenny, and it's really cute until Peyton looks in a shop window for 2 seconds, and Nikki comes and takes Jenny out of the buggy. Or like pram? I don't know, what's it called in America? Like a pram? We call it like a buggy. A stroller? Anyway, one of them. And yeah, basically kidnaps her, which really upsets Jake because he's like, you know, I kind of trusted you to look after her. And it was such a shame because it wasn't Peyton's fault, like she was, but Nikki is just horrific. And Jake finds out that Nikki is planning to take him to court, and that she will probably win because she is the child's mum, and he is just really panicking about losing Jenny. So Nathan, like Haley and Nathan talk, or I think maybe even Nathan talks to Peyton or Lucas, or I can't remember now. It's been so long since I watched it. But he basically realizes that he is pressuring Haley for sex in ways that he didn't even realize he was doing it by looking at these websites, which I thought great, you know, character growth, great conversation to have, loved it. And Haley says, you know, I can't give you what these girls have, but I can give you my heart. And I just thought that was so sweet, but also so sad because she shouldn't feel like she isn't good enough, or that these girls are like better than her, and that all she has is her heart, because she is like, she's gorgeous, she's funny, she's smart. Like, I was just like, oh, Haley, like, come on, like, you are way good enough for him, like above and beyond. Nathan and Lucas actually end up spending some time together because Nathan has decided to help Lucas kind of practice and train to get back on the basketball team with like his injury. And they end up talking about like their respective childhoods, and Lucas is kind of like, maybe I didn't want Dan, like the way that Nathan talks about him and like all this stuff. They kind of both realize that maybe neither of them has had the perfect upbringing, and they kind of, yeah, like become like sort of friends. I mean, not really, that might be a bit of a push, but they're getting there, which is really nice. White slays. Like, I love that man. He is so funny, and his disdain for Dan, like, I feel that. So Lucas then tells Keith about this whole thing with Karen, thinking that he knew, and Keith had no idea. And he's really, you know, upset because he's like, I also, like Lucas, had this idea of Dan and hated him for it, when in reality it actually wasn't true. So Dan ends up giving Deb the signed divorce papers to say that they're done, and she leaves feeling quite upset, and I think she was surprised that she felt that strongly, because she was kind of the one that initiated this whole thing. And it's so sad, but Peyton tells Jake that his dad's going on like another job, or her dad's going on another job or something, but it's just a quick one. But if he gets on the boat with her dad, then he'll be able to take Jenny and leave and not have to worry about Nikki finding them. And so Peyton says goodbye to Jake and he leaves, and I just thought it was so sad, and she kisses him goodbye, and I was like, oh my god. Like, I loved them so much. Lucas apologizes to Peyton and promises that he's going to change. But, like, for me, the ship had sailed. Like, oh, the ship had sailed. Jake. Oh, my God. I didn't even mean to say that. But for me, I was like, I was done. I wanted Peyton and Jake together. Like, I was loving that. And I was so sad that he left. Honestly, Keith was spilling a little bit of tea here, because he goes to Karen and he's like, I've kind of been left with nothing. Low-key. Like, he's upset that she kept this secret from him.
You got what you needed, and so did Lucas. But what about me?
And he kind of says, you know, I was there for you all these years while you were keeping this huge secret from me. I supported you and Lucas. You know, Lucas got the kind of father figure that he needed. You got the support that you needed. And I've been left with nothing. And I was like, you know what? He's kind of right. A little bit. Like, I kind of get why he wants to, like, you know, leave and kind of start his own life now. So then Lucas comes into the conversation and he says that he needs a change and he needs to kind of be a better person. And the only way that he can do this is by leaving Tree Hill and moving to Charleston with Keith for a new start, which is like, whoa. Okay, like, so much crazy stuff has happened in just this first season. We've had pregnancy scares, we had Lucas almost dying, coma, now he's moving away, like, just madness, absolute madness. And that brings us on to the season 1 series finale, and this is called The Games That Play Us, and it is episode 22, and it had 4.49 million viewers. So we're at the playoff game, and Dan is still coaching the team, and he is coaching Lucas and Nathan in a horrific, like, so extreme, so aggressive, so harsh, like, basically exactly what you would expect him to act like, because we know him by now. And they are, like, tied, and another player from the opposing team decides to purposefully go for Lucas's shoulder and hurt him to, you know, try and win the game. So his shoulder is really hurting and he should have come off, but Dan forces him to play anyway, and the team loses. After this, Dan has a complete go at everybody, even though he forced Lucas to play when he wasn't supposed to, and he's just been treating them all like shit. But he goes in and he's like, what the hell was that? And Nathan actually stands up to him, which loved that, and Nathan defended Lucas, which I just thought was great. Just So good.
Lucas was there all game. He played in pain with an injury you knew about. But he wasn't a coward like you were.
Then there is it's so good. Honestly, it was so good because they had me. They really had me. Like, they had me in the first half because Brooke goes to Nikki and it seems like she is kind of conspiring with her and she is going to tell her where Jake went. And I was like, Brooke, no. And so she tells her where to go and Nikki leaves and we see her kind of like driving away to try and find him. And then it's revealed that Peyton and Brooke were actually working together, which I was like, oh, thank God. Thank God. And that they sent her to the wrong place. They sent her to Seattle, Washington, instead of Savannah, which is where Jake went with Jenny. So I was like, okay, it's good. My gals are back. They're back properly now. Haley also decides that she's ready to have her first time with Nathan. And her and Lucas have a really like tearful goodbye when he tells her that he is going to be moving.
I'm sure gonna miss you. You're my best friend, House. You always will be.
And one thing that I really loved, I think, to be honest, I don't know if it's my favourite moment of the series, like of this season, but it's definitely up there because Lucas and Nathan actually have a really sweet goodbye. They have a really like heartfelt goodbye. Nathan actually calls him his brother, which I just loved. I thought that was so sweet. And obviously from where we were in the pilot, they've like come so far from then, so that obviously like means a lot for Nathan to say. And he says that he actually might miss him, and it was just great. I really loved it. I thought this was a really, really good series finale. It had the perfect balance of like heartfelt but also like drama, and yeah, and like wrapping the series up really well. I really liked it.
I'm gonna miss you. I actually wish you weren't gonna leave. I miss you too, little brother. Gotta get away.
Karen then says her goodbye to Lucas, and I was like, oh my God, this literally feels like the end of like the whole series, like, or at least, you know, like before some big time jump or something. Like, this is crazy that Lucas is moving away and he's saying goodbye to everyone and it's only season 1. Like, what is going on? And she says, you know, like Tree Hill will always be your home, and like the people that live here will always love you. And yeah, it was really emotional. I was like, can't believe I've gotten so attached to these characters after just 1 season. And then, oh my days. Honestly, as soon as Keith went over to that house, so he goes to see Deb, to say bye to her, or like I think he goes to ask if Dan's there or something. As soon as he stepped into that house, I was like, oh no, it's gonna be Keith and Deb, isn't it? It's gonna be Keith and Deb. And it was. So they're both, you know, kind of wallowing in their failed relationships, and they end up sleeping together. And I was like, this show, oh my days. But that is not even the best part.
And at some point, the people that we love forgot to love us back.
So they sleep together, and I'm already like, oh geez, it's gonna open our can of worms. But then Dan walks in and sees his wife sleeping with his brother. Insane, bitch. Like, honestly, you have to watch this show. You have to watch it. If you're not watching it, because I know that people watch like deep dives on stuff when they haven't actually seen it, please watch it. Please watch it, and then we can watch along and we can discuss together, because insane. Like, so good. One of the best like season finales, I keep saying season finales I've ever seen. Incredible. Then, okay, I'm still not done, bitch. I'm still not done. So then Dan tells Keith that he is no longer his brother. He's like, we are done cutting ties, right? Then, oh wait, Dan didn't already sign the divorce papers. He's signing them now. Yeah, that was it. Dan goes back to his like beach house, signs the divorce papers, and then has a heart attack. Like, if they were like, how many insane moments can we cram into one 40-minute episode of TV? And I love it. I am here for it. He has a heart attack, right? Deb then goes, obviously she's going to apologize or whatever, finds him. And you would think, okay, you would think in this moment, they're going to have a heart to heart. Like, he, in his dying breath, he's going to forgive her. Or, you know, she's going to realize that she loves him, or they're going to be like, oh my God, no. She goes to help him and he literally whispers in her ear, you better hope I die. I'm sorry. Oh my God, I'm literally crying. Like, incredible. Absolutely incredible TV. Because he's basically like, I'm going to make your life a living hell. If I live through this heart attack, oh, babes, like, it's over for you. Love it. So good.
Better hope I die.
Like, as much as I cannot stand Dan, it's not because he's annoying, right? And I think I've talked about this before. Riverdale was one of those for me, right? Riverdale had some banging villains. Like, they had some great ones. The Black Hood, TBK or something killer, something like that, right? They had some really good ones. The ones that I don't like are the ones that I can't be invested in, right? For me, it's not this person does bad things, so I don't like their character. I can like a character and hate a character at the same. Like, you can hate a character, but know that they're well written and that they are a good villain. That's the difference for me. The Black Hood, let's just take that as an example. Riverdale, the Black Hood, right? I thought that was an incredible story, incredible villain. Like, obviously he's killing off people. I don't like him, but I was like, this is a great villain. And then we get to Percival. Hated him. Oh my God, that's so funny because Chad Michael Murray was literally in Riverdale. I completely forgot about that. As like a cult leader. Oh my God. Anyway, that was just coincidence. But yeah, anyway. Percival, when he came in, was awful. Like, to me, just a bad villain. Like, not engaging. I was just waiting for him to leave. Like, it wasn't because I was like, oh, he's hurting my favorite character. Like, no, that's fine. He's a villain. That's his job. But he was just annoying and irritating, and I was just waiting for him to just go. Whereas with Dan, he is more of like a Black Hood type. He is like, he's so evil. Like, it's so good though. Do you know what I mean? Like, or if we talk about like Pretty Little Liars, Mary Drake, I don't care. Alex Drake, I don't care. Like, for me, they bug me. I don't care. But like Mona as a villain, like when we have like true villains, you know, like Bart Bass, like iconic villains where you're like, obviously this person is terrible. Like, we don't like them, but like as characters to hate, they're so good, so well written, great villains. And for me, that is Dan. And I'm so glad that that's how he turned out, because I felt like he had the potential to just be an annoying one that I just felt like, oh, he just needs to go already. But he brings so much drama and he's so awful. Like, it's good. Like, he's a great villain. Perfect antagonist for this show, 100%. And he proved that when he was like, you better hope I die. Because that was some of the craziest villain shit I've ever heard. It was amazing. Whitey then learns that his like eye surgery thing actually may be more serious. And I'm not ready. I feel like we've got 9 seasons of this show, and I think there's also a time jump. I feel like Whitey's death is inevitable, and I don't know when it's coming. I hope it's not, but I feel like it's just inevitable, and I'm going to cry like a baby because I'm not going to be able to handle it. Lucas then leaves a goodbye note for both Peyton and Brooke, which is like, come on. Like, I know they're not speaking to you, but like, come on. A note. Lucas then goes to say, like, he'd already done, like, his telling Haley that he was going to move, but this is, like, his actual goodbye before he, like, drives away. And he realizes that she has slept with Nathan. And now, Lucas is upset because he knew that Haley wanted to wait until she was married or something, or, like, wait until she was truly ready. And so in that moment, he's upset because he feels like maybe Nathan pressured her. Incredible TV. Actually incredible TV. I can't get over it. This show is so amazing. Hayley then reveals, oh, no. I did wait until, I can't even say it. I did wait until marriage. Nathan and I got married last night, and like holds up a wedding ring. Incredible.
We got married last night.
This shows the blueprint. It is actually the blueprint. It came before all the others, and it is incredible. It is so, so good. Please watch it if you haven't watched it, or if you're like, oh, I haven't seen it for a while, rewatch it along with me, like as I do season by season, because everyone needs to watch this show. It deserves its day of reckoning. It deserves to be back in the public eye again. I want to see edits. Actually, I don't want to see edits because there would be spoilers, but I want to see them for when I'm ready. I want to see people talking about it. I want to, like, please share this with your friends. Get them to watch One Tree Hill, and we can all, like, it'll be like a book club, but we'll all watch One Tree Hill together. Because, what do you mean? What do you mean you and Nathan got married yesterday? What do you mean? What do you actually mean? Incredible. I couldn't believe it. Impeccable. And then Lucas goes and he gets in the car with Keith, and they like drive away. And Lucas's like voiceover, because he narrates like the beginning and the end of every episode, like Meredith Grey style, he says that like trouble lies ahead. So I was like, I'm so excited to watch season 2. But yeah, I was shocked that he actually ended up moving. I thought that was just going to be like a little plot thing and then he would end up staying. So I'm really interested to see how that carries over into season 2. Like, because obviously he's going to come back. Dan reveals that the day that Deb came and told him that she was pregnant with Nathan, he was going to leave. And he didn't, because she told him that she was pregnant. But his plan was to tell her that he was quitting school at the end of the year or the end of the semester, and he was going to go back to Karen, and he was going to be a dad with Karen. He was going to be with Karen. But he didn't, because Deb said that she was pregnant. Insane reveal. Like, I need Karen to, I need to see Karen's face when she hears this. Like, this has to come out. Amazing. So insane.
I was leaving because there was a girl I left behind. A girl who was carrying my child. And a girl that I loved very much.
Nathan, you know, they talk about the pictures and everything, and he says that the pictures from like of Peyton, like they're way old, they're back from when they were still together, like he didn't realize he still had them, and he promises that he doesn't want Peyton, that he wants Hayley. And it was just, oh my god, it was one of the most romantic, like, best scenes ever. They were like standing in the rain and they kiss in the rain and they make up, and it is just amazing. Cinematography, it just beautiful. I loved it. I love Nathan and Hayley. I just love them.
You love this girl. And even if you're gonna catch pneumonia, your ass is gonna stand out here in the rain. Till you convince her to forgive you. I'm thinking I have to kiss you.
Well, if you have to.
Keith also goes to Karen and asks her if she ever loved him, and I was like, oh, Keith, you're breaking your own heart right now. Don't do this to me. And she says that she can't answer that, and I was just like, oh, that is rough.
I'm leaving because I can't look at you anymore without my heart breaking.
Also, Snow Patrol played at the end. I mean, what are you trying to do to me? Like, if you watch Grey's Anatomy, then you know about Snow Patrol. And yeah, Lucas and Whitey have like a really sweet moment as well, which I love, because the series kind of started with them two in a way. Like, it started with Whitey believing in Lucas, and like also Keith and Whitey. Like, so for them to have a moment at the end, and for Whitey to say, you know, Keith's a good guy, like you should look after him, and then Lucas says that he's a good guy, and like it was just really sweet. I just really liked that. So I'm just going to do a quick season 2 predictions, because I don't really have any idea. I feel like maybe we could get a Dan and Karen like something, or maybe they're going to leave that for a little bit later down the line. I think Jake will come back, I hope. I don't think that's like the last we've seen of like him and Nikki and that whole situation. I think we could maybe get new love interests, maybe for Brooke or Peyton. I'm really interested to see where this whole marriage thing with Nathan and Haley goes. And maybe if, you know, Karen and this Larry guy are going to become more of a thing, or if she's going to kind of choose herself. Either way, love it. So yeah, honestly, I'm not sure. I feel like once I've seen like season 2 was like, I'm going to have more predictions going into like season 3 and the ongoing seasons, but because I've only had this one season and it has thrown so many curveballs at me, like I've been shocked the whole time, so I feel like I truly can't predict season 2. Now, before we finish, I'm going to do my character ranking. So at number 10 I have Dan, because obviously. At number 9 I have Keith, because just the whole drinking thing, and I just, yeah. But I do like him. I feel like he can redeem himself. At number 8 I have Karen. I feel like she does slay, like she's girl power, and I love that for her, but also she's a little bit boring. Like I need to see more from her. 7 I have Deb, because Deb's a bad bitch, okay? And I love that about her, but she's a little bit lower down because of the whole sleeping with Keith thing. At 6 I have Lucas. I know, in the pilot, if I had done a ranking in the pilot, I wish I'd done like one at the beginning, because he would have been at the top. I loved that man. But with the Nikki thing and like his like personality just changing a bit, he's lower down. But I feel like he could move back up in season 2. Number 5 I have Jake, which is crazy because he's not even really in it that much, but I just thought he was so endearing and I loved him and Peyton, and I just thought he was just so sweet. So yeah. Number 4 I have Haley, because I really love Haley. I think sometimes she does bug me a little bit, but I feel like we can work on that as I kind of like get to know her more. I think she could break into the top 3. I feel like she has the potential to be the real like heart of this show. Yeah, I feel like she's going to come into her own more as the show goes on. And number 3 I have Nathan, which is insane because he would have been like number 10. Okay, maybe not below Dan, but he definitely would have been at the bottom. But no, I really like him. I think his character developed so much over the season. I think he has so much like depth to him. So I'm really excited to see where his character goes. And number 2 I have Peyton, and I just love her. It took me a while to warm to her, but I feel like I really have now. And then at number 1 I have Brooke, because she's beyond iconic, obviously. I think aside from Nathan, she definitely has the most kind of like depth to her as a character. And I feel like we have a lot more to kind of see of her. And I think she's like funny. I think she just brings a lot to the show. So that's why she's my number 1. But every season we're going to do another character ranking. So then we'll look at how my character ranking for this season changes with season 2. But yes, that is it for today's video. That is it for my One Tree Hill season 1 deep dive. Like I said, please don't spoil it for me in the comments, but do let me know what you kind of thought. And if you're rewatching with me, that would be so fun, or watching for the first time. And then yes, I will be posting season 2. I'm so excited that I can actually watch season 2 now, because I didn't want to watch it and get my like opinions and everything all confused with season 1. So now I can actually watch season 2, and I'm so excited to start watching it again because I have missed it. And yeah, so yeah, I'll be posting season 2, and it'll be the exact same as this. We'll go through every episode, character rankings, everything like that. I don't know when that will be, because I have like 22 episodes of season 2 to start watching that I haven't even started watching yet, and then scripting the video and filming it, editing it. It's a long old process, so I can't promise it'll be anytime soon, but hopefully not too far away. So yes, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.
There is only one Tree Hill, and it's your home.